evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Welcome to On the Hunt tonight. What a wild weekend, y'all. What a wild weekend this has been so far. And I hope you guys are ready because we've got some hardcore data. Y'all know that's my favorite word, right? Data. When it comes to Freedom of Information Act requests and documents that our guest tonight, Eric of Media Palace, has gotten. He's put a lot of work into this and gotten all these documents on cryptids, Bigfoot sightings, 911 calls, state park rangers and national park rangers, investigations or non-investigations into Bigfoot sightings, and much more. Eric is also a journalist, a documentarian. He has a couple of, there's at least 4 actually, films that he is just are amazing, you guys, on the Brushy Creek Beast, or the Beast of Brushy Creek, and Hairy Man Road. Okay, so you guys get ready. I've been looking forward to this so much. We have so much to talk about tonight, and I hope you guys are ready. I know our chat, I stand by it, y'all. We have the best chat, the best live chat on the internet. And so shout out to all of my mods, all the viewers, everybody, all the support, y'all. Thank you so much for all being here tonight. All right, if you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows, hang out on my website, see what I'm up to. I do have a bunch of events coming up where I'm going to be speaking, including, let's see, well, I was going to say, go to my website, y'all, thecryptidhuntress.com. Thank you. I see Cryptidville putting that up in there right now in the chat. Thecryptidhuntress.com. There's a link in the chat right now. Thank you, Cryptidville. And go there. I am going to be next weekend. I will be at the East Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall. So please come out and see me if you're in the Opelika, Alabama area. We have Tyler Howell, David Hewlett, Stacy Brown Jr., Dale Boswell, Bobby Dizzle himself, myself, and Flat Rock. It's going to be a great time. So y'all come out and see me over there. I also have a UFO conference coming up on February the 1st in Blue Ridge, Georgia. And then we got the Georgia Bigfoot Conference coming up in March, and the Full Disclosure Now Conference, that's in July. So that's on my schedule right now at this moment. Okay, so definitely come see me. If you guys would like to support the channel, I do have a Patreon. You guys can find all the information for that on my website. And I also have a shop. You can find all that information. It's called War Woman Goods. It's on my website and on Etsy. Okay. I'm long-winded. We have so much to talk about tonight. Let's get to the show, y'all. Let's get straight to it. Okay, we are going on the hunt tonight with investigator, journalist, and filmmaker Eric Palacios to discuss the Beast of Brushy Creek and his deep dive into official government documents and records on cryptids and Bigfoot encounters in the U.S. national parks and across North America. He's connecting dots and uncovering what has been hidden from the general public for so long. And y'all know I talk about national parks just about every show. That's where I do most of my Bigfoot research. Eric is a filmmaker and independent journalist from Central Texas that has been investigating the strange and unexplained since 2018. Eric specializes in gaining access to never-before-released government records pertaining to cryptids. Since 2023, Eric has amassed the largest collection of federal and local law enforcement reports mentioning Bigfoot on the planet. The collection of data ranges from police documents, national park reports, 911 phone calls, and even photos. And they can all be found on Eric's Patreon. Y'all look at Media Palace. Eric has also released 2 documentaries on streaming platforms documenting strange events taking place in his hometown, north of Austin, Texas. They're called The Beast of Brushy Creek and The Legend of Hairy Man Road. And you guys can find both of them on his YouTube channel. That is Media Palace. You can also find all this on his Patreon. Please support Eric on his Patreon, y'all. He's putting in the boots on the ground work when it comes to the documentation of all this stuff. It's giving me like David Palacios vibes, y'all. Okay, when it comes to the Bigfoot community. So please help me welcome to the show for the very first time on the Cryptid Hunters channel, Mr. Eric of Media Palace. What's up, Eric?
Hey, Jessica, thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, right on,
Thank you.
anytime.
Yeah, man. Okay, so I've been watching your channel for a little while now. Okay, and Brown Dwarf, or AKA Bigfoot
Yeah,
Dwarf, good friend,
yeah,
turned me on to your channel a while back, and I should have, man. I can't believe it's taken me this long to get you on the show. Okay, and it's my fault. I should have reached out a long time ago, but I did. It did catch my attention last week. You had put out a video, and it was in regards to a Freedom of Information request that you did regarding a Bigfoot sighting in a national park, and it involved
oh yeah,
like part of it was like covered up and redacted because of a HIPAA exemption. It was so
yeah,
weird. I guess we could
yeah,
talk about that a little bit, right? This is
yeah,
wild.
absolutely.
Okay.
It's really the first Bigfoot sighting report that's ever been released by the National Park Service. And the National Park Service, if you don't know, it's actually run by the Department of Interior. They do all the
Mhm.
national park stuff, so it's a federal entity. And yeah, this is the I actually have it right here. If you want to take a look at it? I have it right here. So this is the report. As you can see, it's kind of like redacted at the top. And I have several of these incident reports from national parks, and this one struck me as really weird because right at the top, I don't know if you can see that, it says, "Please note this has not been approved by a supervisor." It says that right at the top, and
Wow.
that's not normal. Okay, I have another one here. This is a normal, Freedom of Information Act request. There's nothing like that at the top of it. This is comparison right here, blacked out, not blacked out. Okay, and
Wow.
it to me, yeah, it's fascinating. This again, they've never released before a Bigfoot sighting report until I did this Freedom of Information Act request. It took me, I want to say, about 5 months to actually get this back because I mean these things take a really long time. They only have to respond to you within like 20 days, I believe the statute is. It's different for different entities, I believe. But once they respond to you, it's like they'll put it on the back burner and they'll wait for, they can wait however long they want, really. Um, but yeah, I ended up getting this report. And the way I had initially found it is I was on a database of reports in the national park, and they had a small summary report, incident summary report, and it stated Bigfoot hunters flocking to Yampa Bench report bone piles near road and Bigfoot sighting near Cleopatra's couch. This is what the incident report said, okay? And so luckily it had the incident report number, and the incident report number is N2 201-65493. So it's an actual National Parks incident report here. And with that report, I was able to write a detailed Freedom of Information Act request, submitted it, and I got this back. And compared to the other ones, normally they're like 5 to 6 pages. They have a general summary report. They have witness reports by the people whoever called or however the incident was documented. Here we only have 2 pages. Okay, uh, that's not normal. That is not normal. Um, it- Go ahead.
No, and I was going to say so it's not normal to not have any more information than that, but
Right.
all the redacted areas are odd, and the fact
Yeah.
that they had HIPAA exemptions on this. I wanted to ask you, in that report, did they say what those piles of bones were? Did they specifically say?
So I'll get back to that HIPAA exemption thing here in a second,
Yeah.
and I'll answer your question. Um,
Okay.
but real quick, like you mentioned and everything, like here we have the officer's name redacted, and that should not be the case. We should have this person's name, the person who investigated, their badge number is redacted, everything is redacted. So we have no idea who this person was, how the report came in. We have no idea if it was like a phone call, if it was an email, maybe someone was in the park and they came face to face with the ranger and said, "Hey, we got a Bigfoot sighting report." So we have really no idea about that. And there's a reason why we don't have uh, any information on that. And this is the email that I got from the National Park Service here. And it pretty much it goes over that HIPAA exemption. I'm just going to read it verbatim as what it says here. Okay. The ranger who completed the case report was medically incapacitated at the time and did not have the ability to conduct a thorough report and follow up. That's what it says right here, verbatim. So
Okay.
That's I think, if we want to go down the cover up theory route, that was a really smart move because once they say it's medical, that falls under a HIPAA exemption, and that information is no longer public. Even though he's a public servant working a public park, his medical
Um,
issue exempts him from providing any information. Now, Jessica, I mean, this guy is a ranger. You think he's physically fit, he's out there, he's hiking, right? You would think that. You would think he has the ability to go out there and help these people, right?
You'd think so. I mean, well, I'm out in the national parks, the state parks, and national parks a lot, and most of the park rangers are young. They're young, fit guys, and
Sure.
not some of them are older, but I mean, I wouldn't say
Right.
any more above 60s or maybe 70 at the most.
Exactly.
And they're
Yeah.
all, you got to be pretty tough
Right.
to go and yeah,
Let me phrase
not
it
to
this
say
way,
because it
Jessica.
hurt, but
Well, let me phrase it
mhm.
this way. If it was a cougar sighting or something of that nature, do you think the same response would have happened? That's an interesting
No,
question. I mean,
that's a good
never,
question.
I've never seen that report. I've never seen that in any other FOIA request I've done. We couldn't investigate because the guy was medically incapacitated. And once I put this out there, people were kind of speculating, like, was he or she, were they medically incapacitated because they were too scared to go out there and check? Like, because that what the medical issue was? Like, a lot of questions that we don't have answers to, and we probably will never have answers to. Um, and recently, I kind of want to talk about this because it's so similar to the recent those Sasquatch hunters in the Pacific Northwest, and unfortunately, they died over the holidays. To me,
Oh, that's
that's
right.
so yeah. To me, it's this incident is very similar to that because this happened in winter. This happened in September 3rd of 2020. So winter time in Colorado. So you're thinking snow, but the part that gets me is when you read the summary here. Okay, because it has all the information from the incident summary report. I'll just read that again real quick. Bigfoot hunters flocking to Yampa Bench Road report bone piles near road and Bigfoot sighting near Cleopatra's Couch. Bone piles may be related to poaching, possible OB camping along Bench Road. Unprepared visitors visiting area in winter may result in increased search and rescue. Now, if you remember correctly, the the people that passed away over the holiday, that's kind of what happened here. Uh, Search and rescue was initiated and all that stuff. So again, if you want to speculate, and this is, we're kind of playing devil's advocate here. We're going to speculate. It almost seems like they had this was in 2020. It almost seemed like they had a scenario prepared just in case something happened. Let's say, search and rescue or whatever, and I hate to say that, but it's really weird coming from a report that's just so confusing like this. It's really strange.
It's
Um,
very strange. And
yeah.
Cryptidville here was saying he's also a boots on the ground field researcher. He's experienced Bigfoot, Dogman up at the LBL in Kentucky.
Okay.
He says maybe something happened on site that caused his incapacitation. I mean,
Yeah. I
maybe
mean,
he got
that's
hurt.
that's a really good question. And the other thing here is like they're saying like Bigfoot hunters, we have no idea who these people were. We should know who they were. We should know how this report came in, but we don't. So could it be they're just labeling them, Bigfoot hunters just to kind of like, I don't want to say disparage, but you know what I'm trying to put out there. Like it just the way they're wording it just makes it seem like they're almost, yeah, they're disparaging a little bit. That's the way I get from
Mhm.
reading this. It's just my opinion. That's putting that out there. But
Well,
yeah,
can I?
really weird.
I wanted to bring this. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm so
Sure.
sorry.
That's all right.
Maureen says, or drunk or on drugs, right? Too. That could be okay. So, like you said, that they may have had something lined up, like maybe he was incapacitated. Maybe he had taken some pain medicine or something, or that's their excuse. Okay, that's kind of
Yeah.
like their go to. Maybe that's like
Mhm.
a go to in case they need to cover something up. They, put the, let's just say, so to speak, the monkey on his back. Okay,
Right. No,
by
yeah.
pointing a finger like, oh, he was on, some kind of steroid or some kind of, um, you know, antipsychotics or just something. And I'm just saying, I am no doctor, okay, or
Right.
anything like that. I'm just saying that for entertainment purposes only. Okay, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that could have been what it is, and that's going to be their go-to, and that's something that we should look out for in future FOIA request documents.
Yeah, that's a good point. And on a side note, I'm not sure if you'd heard, but in Kisatchie National Park, a couple months back, there was actually a group of teenagers that were out at the national forest there camping, and they called in to the to the, I guess, ranger's office or whatever, saying they needed help leaving because something was growling at them and was walking around on 2 feet. I don't know if you've heard. Did you hear about this one? This was in Kisatchie.
I heard about it on your YouTube channel.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Well,
I
yeah.
heard about it on there.
So yeah, that was like all over, like the New York whatever Post got that, and they posted a bunch of stuff about it. So I was interested in it. I did the FOIA request on it, and I got the sheriff's documents. But this happened in a national park. We should have something from the National Park Service. I have yet to find that. So I'm kind of wondering, like, what's the deal? This is the second possible Bigfoot incident you guys did not investigate? Because we know they sent the sheriff out there, and I have the 911 call and everything like that. If you want to see the call, it's on my YouTube. But yeah, like this is the second time you guys refuse to go out there and check this stuff. Like, it's really interesting. But the sheriff went out there, got the kids, and brought them back. I have the documentation for that. I spoke to the guy who made the call, and he has a lot more to say. So hopefully be able to get him on an interview here pretty soon. But very, very interesting stuff within a short time frame. I mean, this was in 2020. That one was last year, so about 4 years. Two reports where, not much information. Unfortunately, we should have a lot, but we don't.
Yeah, I actually, so I have a close family member. Okay, I don't know if I've ever disclosed exactly who this is, but it's a very close family member. And this person was a lead dispatcher at the 911 call center in the town where we both lived, where we grew up, actually.
Okay.
And she did that for decades, for a long time. And so she's friends. Of course, she got all the calls that came in, or at least heard them, and was friends with all the deputies. And I became friends with a lot of I still am friends with a lot of the deputies out there at the sheriff's department. And some of the best intel that I've ever gotten would be from those deputies, and even from some of the 911 call center people. Okay,
Right.
who would, I always kept this person anonymous. I don't want anybody getting in trouble. She never gave me any sensitive information, but when the people were hitting dogs in the middle of the night on a road a mile from my house, but the dog got up on two legs and ran off after they hit it, she thought I might need to know about that. Okay.
That's weird.
So, yeah. But they would let me know, if there was a sighting or something, I would find out about it.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like getting 911 calls and stuff like that. And in 2023, I had another 911 phone call that I got where the caller actually said, "Hey, I think I have Bigfoot on a trail camera." He called into the East Texas Harrison County Sheriff's Department in East Texas and says, "Hey, I think I have Bigfoot on a trail camera," and they laughed at him. And
I
I'm
heard
like,
that.
wow, he was not on the phone when they started laughing at him, but there was like three calls made in between there where they were like transferring and they were laughing at him the whole time. And at first I was like, well, why don't more people call and report this stuff? And that's the reason why. That's exactly the reason why they don't do that. They don't want to, feel like an idiot. But
I heard that call on your YouTube
yeah,
channel. I was listening to that, and I was getting a little frustrated and
right.
irritated at those 911 dispatchers should not have been laughing at that. I'm sorry.
No,
I mean,
very unprofessional.
it was very unprofessional, but I mean, do you know what year that was? Because it might have been, was it a long time ago or was it more
That was in
recent?
2023.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. Yeah,
They should have
that
been
was
laughing.
2023. No, exactly. And I
Wow.
mean, he was very serious because he was just worried. He's like, I have this big thing on my property. I don't need it out there. Who do I call? And I spoke with the gentleman, and like I said, he was just concerned because he didn't want this thing on his property, whatever it was. It was I have the picture. If you guys want to check out the picture, it's on my YouTube. But yeah, that's the reason why we really don't get more 911 phone calls, just because
Mhm.
people handling it like that, unfortunately.
No, well, they can contact you or myself. I mean, if it, if
Sure,
it
yeah.
has any, contact us.
There you go.
Contact.
Yeah,
You don't have to call. But these people are kind of desperate when they expect to be
exactly.
protected.
Yeah,
Tax-paying citizens should be
yeah.
protected by their local authorities, right?
Yeah, they're doing what, you would imagine you're supposed to do. You see something going on, and you call the local authorities to help you out. And yeah, it's unfortunate what happened to him. But and then when I spoke to him, I wanted to go out there and talk with him and do an interview and everything. And after that, he's like, "I'm just done with it." He's like, "I'm done. I don't want to, I don't want to be involved. I'm done with it or whatever." So really nice guy. It's just unfortunate what happened to him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, I think a lot of us Bigfoot researchers and just people that are interested in cryptids, we've heard some 911 calls before. If you go to YouTube and you listen to some of the, big if you type in Bigfoot sightings or something, some of these 911 calls will come up. And there was
Mm.
one gentleman who was on the phone with 911 and I think his dog had been unalived. And
Yeah,
and
I
he
did some. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. I did
yeah,
some diving into that one, and I haven't been able to find any documentation on that one. I did
mhm,
call their sheriff's department, and I said, "Hey, can you guys, this call?" And he knew about the call, but he said he couldn't confirm or deny it. So it's just like I really wish when that call was released, there should be a report to follow that. You know what I mean? Like that's we really need to if that's a real call or whatever, we need to figure out where that came from because that's just like there was two calls apparently, and then it's really strange that we didn't get the documentation to go along with that. With that, we'd have a lot more answers, I'd say. But yeah, there's a few calls like that are out there. I think there's another 911 call from San Antonio that came out, and that one same thing. I called, they knew about it, but they didn't have it on file, so they could not confirm or deny its authenticity. Um, yeah,
oh,
so it's anyone putting stuff out there. If you have documentation, that's like the most important piece of the puzzle right there. Names, dates, documentation, all that type of stuff. Um,
boy,
yeah,
that's good to know. That's good to know. And Greg just put out a documentary himself. I think it's called Cryptid Expeditions, I think. And I might have gotten that backwards, but Greg, thank you for being here tonight. He says, I don't know why folks call the popo when experiencing a Bigfoot. What is the popo going to do? Arrest the foot for being hairy. All right, Greg. I think, listen, if that were me, and especially being a single mom, living alone
right.
and especially having, pets and things that live outside. Well, I don't know. I usually would not call the cops and stuff. Okay, that's just me. But not
Sure.
all of us call the cops for everything. We handle it. Okay, but in this
Yeah,
case, I
yeah,
think that
absolutely.
it's important because if something were to happen to me and this something were to break in my house or hurt me or my animals or my kid, I would want there to be documentation of there being somebody prowling around my house or a Bigfoot prowling around my house. So at least
Yeah.
people would know what happened. You know what I mean?
No, Jessica, you hit it right on the head. When I spoke to the gentleman, he said he wanted documentation to be out there, just in case he had to have, his last resort and, you know, have to pull out something and handle it himself. He
Mhm.
wanted there to be documentation about that. So that's one of the reasons why he did make the call, and he was doing everything he should have, I would say. If you're going to go that route, he was just doing everything he needed to do, just in case.
Yeah.
But it never got that far, thankfully. Yeah,
Yeah, you want to cover your butt. That
yeah.
way, if they don't come out, okay, I know this is terrible. I shouldn't be giving advice like this. I'm not giving advice. Y'all don't listen to me. But if the cops don't come out, or if they do come out, at least it's documented. And then if something were to happen, you can take care of it. Okay. If it gets worse, I'm just saying. It's like,
100%. Yeah, no,
you know what I mean? God, that sounds
right.
terrible. But y'all know what I mean. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Cover yourself.
yeah, exactly. You read my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, what made you kind of get into all this? I know you're a journalist. Okay, you're a
Yeah.
journalist, but had you always been into Bigfoot and cryptids, or like, I mean, did something happen that where you felt like you needed to dig into a case more, or what?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of all of that. I grew up here along the Brushy Creek, which I think is probably the weirdest place in Texas. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. The Brushy Creek is an ancient escarpment. You can literally see it from San Antonio, from where it starts to about where a little bit before Dallas, where Dallas gets. It's visible from space. That's how big it is. And I mean, full of caves and caverns all throughout this area. So that in itself is very interesting. In the 1960s, I believe, when they were building I-35, which is like the major highway corridor, right along the Brushy Creek at the time, they found the oldest complete skeleton that was ever been found. That was right along the Brushy Creek, not far from where I lived growing up. I mean, not only that, but shortly after that, while they're constructing this road, they also found at the bottom of one of these ancient Indian burial mounds, they found an ancient Roman coin. And you're like, how did that get there? There's really no explanation to how that got there. And a lot of controversy over the Roman coin. Two professors at the university here looked at it. One of them said that he believed it was legit. It was what it was. And then the other one said that he believed what happened was a World War II veteran walking home dropped the coin and a rodent grabbed it and burrowed with it underground. Like that was his excuse, whatever. So
Oh, well,
controversy there. They couldn't get along.
it takes
Yeah,
some imagination too. I mean, I
right.
don't know, it might have been reaching. There's all sorts of out of place relics that are found all over the place, like Viking swords. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
um, I mean, I talk about it quite often. The hidden history that we have here, the ancient Egyptian artifacts that have been found all over the Grand Canyon and,
Oh
Ohio and
yeah.
Illinois. Things just don't
Yeah.
really add up. A lot of
No,
this
yeah, and
things
and
are
we get a
found.
lot of that stuff here. In fact, I talk about it in the documentary, The Beast of Brushy Creek. About 50 yards from where my backyard was growing up, they found three ancient Indian burial mounds with three inhabitants there. Ancient Indians, they were found there. This is like where we used to play soccer and football and in our backyards. So that's what I grew up with. And we all had weird experiences and stuff happening to us while we were living there. It's we all had it. And nothing really too crazy. I wasn't a Bigfoot guy or whatever. In my hometown here in Round Rock, we actually have a road called Hairy Man Road, which I would drive through there to soccer practice like every other Wednesday or whatever. And that still didn't really make me into like Bigfoot or whatever. I just knew about it. I thought it was just part of our local history, or whatever. That wasn't until 2011 when I did have an experience fishing off of the Brushy Creek right behind my house. And yeah, 2011 was an interesting year for Central Texas because it was the worst drought we've ever had in Central Texas. So the Brushy Creek was like super low. I mean, it was really low. There were caves that had never been exposed before all throughout the bottom of that creek everywhere. And so we were out there fishing. We caught a lot of fish. They were just like puddles, and we caught a whole bunch of fish. And as we're walking, I would say there was about five of us, and I guess they call it like bluff charging or whatever. Like something came out, and this thing, whatever it was massive. Just charged at us. It was like a elephant going through the trees, and but there was a few of us out there, older guys, and we're in Texas, so we all had our hunting gear with us and stuff, and we were terrified, like little kids out there. And yeah, one of my buddies picked up a rock and threw it in that direction, and it was just dead silent. And ever since then, I've kind of wondered what that was. And I started just kind of reaching out to people and doing some research in my local area. And after about 2 years, all the information I had ended up being turned into a documentary that became The Beast of Brushy Creek. And it's just a lot of really strange weird stuff. Not necessarily, thank you. Yeah, not necessarily Bigfoot related. And I got a lot of heat for that because they're like, hey, this isn't really like a Bigfoot hardcore documentary. And I was like, yeah, I'm not really trying to make a Bigfoot documentary. I'm trying to make a documentary on the area. And so I was successful doing that. And while researching, I learned the real history of Hairy Man Road, which to me was really interesting. Um, and that was that we'd all heard the story that in the 1800s, there were settlers traveling up the Chisholm Trail, which is the famous trail they would run cattle up through that runs right through my hometown. They were running the cattle up through there, and Hairy Man Road was like a shortcut. And everyone that would go through there would get chased off by what they say was a wild hairy man. And the rumor was that it was like a settler that got left behind, and he just grew out feral out there in the 1800s. That was the rumor. And that's what we grew up with until I started researching. I actually found a book by the local postmaster in the area from the 1950s up till the 80s, I believe. And he wrote a book called Rich Little Poor Boy. And in this book, he documents the real reason and how the Hairy Man Road got its name. And he names there were four boys out there. He names all the boys. The main boy was Shorty Caldwell. He was actually the high school football quarterback, star quarterback or whatever. So they're out there hanging out on Hairy Man Road at midnight. Uh, Shorty gets stranded out there. His car is dead or whatever. And as he's walking back to Round Rock to town, he says he gets chased by a wild hairy man that chased him all the way back to town. So he goes to school the next day, starts talking about it, catches like wildfire. Fast forward to there's a gentleman who has a business he's trying to open down off of Hairy Man Road, just a little, I forget what he was trying to do, but he's opening a shop there. And he goes into the postmaster's office saying, "Hey, I want to get some, stamps and all the stuff I need for my business. What is the name of this road?" And he's like, "Well, we don't really have officially a name for it, but all the kids call it Hairy Man Road." He's like, "Oh, I love it." So he goes down to the courthouse, and then he comes back and he's all happy. And then he has the thing saying his address, which was, whatever, Hairy Man Road. And that's the official name of how it got, Hairy Man Road. But it wasn't without some pushback, because a lot of the locals in the area actually fought. They did not want that name, Hairy Man Road. And even in the book, he writes that the old timers stated in there, "Do not name it Hairy Man Road. You're stepping on hollowed ground," is what they said, which is like, that's really weird. Why would they word it like, hollowed ground? Really strange. But that's just part of the legend here, the Hairy Man Road. And people have experienced some stuff on there. If we want to talk about like the coyote turned into a knot.
Oh gosh. Yes. I do. Well, I mean, I've watched your documentaries and they're
Thank you.
fantastic. You did a great job of documenting the history of Brushy Creek and
Thank you.
Hairy
Appreciate
Man
that.
Road. I watched the Brushy Creek documentary first, and it was fantastic. And Brown Dwarf, our friend Bigfoot Dwarf, now he's changed his name, Bigfoot Dwarf.
Okay.
He's the one that told us about, or told me about. I say us like there's more of me. Told me about the coyote. Okay,
Yeah.
and it was actually in your documentary. I mean, oh my gosh, do you think? Okay, tell the audience about it, and I want to know your opinion on that coyote and how it got that way.
Yeah, real quick, shout out to Bigfoot Dwarf. Thanks for linking us
Yeah.
up. He's a really nice guy. And I hope he's staying safe out there in Southern California. Yeah,
Yes.
stay safe, man, if you're watching.
Yeah,
But yeah,
everybody
no,
in
that
California.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Please.
Um, yeah, so that came to me when I was researching for the Beast of Brushy Creek. Um, a researcher had reached out to me saying that and we'll circle back around to the big elephant, I guess, they got me researching or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, he had reached out to me and told me about certain things taking place, and I wanted to interview him. So I interviewed him right there off of the Hairy Man Road. And so, right off of the Hairy Man Road, he had told me he had been investigating, and he had found a teat post that was bent like a banana, and that's in the documentary. It's like, and if you ever, put in a barbed wire fence, you need the post pounder and all this stuff. It's
Mhm.
a heavy duty. It's not easy to bend one of those things. So this thing was just bent like a banana, and we're just trying to figure out how that happened. Apparently, leading up to that bend, he had found some footprints that led up to that. It bent, and then on the other side, he didn't see any other footprints. But as we're talking, it was really interesting. It's in the documentary. He tells me about the coyote that he found, which if you follow the Hairy Man Road and you go all the way up, you're going to end up in the Balcones Canyonlands, which is the federal national park we have here in Central Texas. So if you keep going, that's what you're going to hit. And so a little bit up it's past Hairy Man Road, but he's closer to the Balcones area. He found a coyote that was, first he had found an area that he saw was just torn up by four-wheelers. A bunch of
Mhm.
four-wheelers had been through there, just kind of tearing up, and they really destroyed a lot of this habitat here in this by the Balcones Canyonlands. And so he said he was walking through there, and then he found a little trail, and he started walking, and he finds, you have the picture of it. It's a coyote. You don't have to show it, but it's pretty graphic.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
pretty graphic.
coyote. It's very
I
graphic.
thought
Yeah,
about uploading it, but I'm
yeah,
afraid it's a little bit much. That I thought
right.
maybe that would be a great way to send people to watch your documentary so they
Sure.
can see it
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah, but it's a
I didn't bring
coyote
it up.
that's yeah, it's all right. It's a coyote that's actually
Gross.
pulled inside out and tied into a knot. Like, not only is it pulled inside out, but it's tied into a knot. Like, it's insane. Like, the jaws are upside down backwards. I've never seen anything like that. I have
It's
no
tied.
explanation for it. Yeah, it's
It's
tied. It's
tied
in
in
a knot.
knot.
Yeah,
It's weird, and
yeah,
it makes sense. Even its mouth and everything. A normal. Okay, my thoughts on that before we go further. My thoughts on
sure.
that. Like we haven't really gotten into the whole ritual aspect of this area and like
Right,
the curse, the possibility of it being like cursed lands and things
right.
like that. There's a lot of occult activity that potentially may go on there. Okay,
There is.
but nonetheless, I've never come across anything like this. But I've talked to people in the Dogman community that have had stuff that's kind of similar that's happened. I've had people on my show where they talk about how dogmen do stuff like that sometimes, and Bigfoot. But I'd never seen a picture of it before, like you have.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like that either. And this guy is probably one of the top three researchers in Texas, I would say. In the documentary, he has his face covered because he doesn't want to expose his identity
Mhm.
for good reason. He has a lot of, he's shown me a lot of things that I was like, oh my God, that's, like if you put this out there, that's going to change a lot of stuff. And he's like, I'm never putting this out there. So yeah, he's one of those type. And there's people like that. There are people like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. He said I did have permission to share that and all that stuff. But yeah, I have no explanation for how something can be turned inside out and tied into a knot like that. I cannot explain that.
Well, I think that they probably got, if it's the hairy men that lived there, they probably got really upset that those people were going in there with their vehicles and tearing up the land and
That's
tearing up
what he
that
said.
property.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Yeah,
That's what
and
I think.
if you just kind of reminded me of some other stuff. Um, while researching there on the Harryman Road, I went out there with well, a camera that wasn't exposed. I'll say that, a camera that people didn't know I had. And I was talking to some of the construction workers out there. They were doing some work on the road, and I was like, "Hey, have you heard anything about this road or whatever? It's supposed to, have a big whatever, whatever." And then one of the guy was like, "Oh no, I haven't heard anything about that." And I start walking away. He's like, "Well," he's like, "That guy right there said he saw uh, something with a shadow peeking behind the tree or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, really?" So I go over there and I start talking to the guy, and he starts telling me about the giant caves that are off of the Harryman Road, and some of them are in the documentary. But he was saying that these caves, he saw a deer come out of one of these caves, and I'm like, "Wow, that's got to be a really big cave if a deer's walking out of there." And as I'm walking, I still have the camera going, and I'm talking, and then I talked to one of the foremen there, and we're talking whatever, and then I asked him about the road, and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "A lot of people have died out here." And then he goes, "They've been hit by trees." And I was like, "Hit by trees? What does that mean?" Like, that's so weird. Um, yeah, very, very strange and weird. And then for the Legend of Harry Man Road documentary, I talked to one of my best friends. We grew up in the area together. I had no idea he had any type of Bigfoot activity or anything. He's been living in Europe for many years, and he comes back periodically. And he saw that I was working on this, and he's like, "Dude, how have we never talked about this before?" And I interview him, and right there in that same area where we were talking to the construction workers and stuff, he told me about this pretty much the same thing that happened to him. He got bluff charged out of an area that he was with, and the girl he was with said that she had seen things poking their head out from trees and just all this really strange stuff. So the Harryman Road is a really it's a really weird place. Just and it's dangerous. I mean, we get cave-ins all the time in that area. In 2018, there was a cave-in underneath a house that's off of Harryman Road, and they never found the end to it. It was chamber after chamber, and they just filled it up the best they could, and they just put a building on top of it, and that was it. And so that was yeah, that kind of leads into some other stuff that I kind of want to finish, kind of want to finish on, but a lot of interesting stuff in the area. A lot of caves, caverns. While I was researching, I found the local spelunking group from the University of Texas. There was a group that they put out a document in 1967, I want to say, documenting all the caves in the area. They documented about 300 caves in Williamson County, which is the county that I live, speculating there could be up to 3,000 undiscovered caves in the area, which is like that's a lot of caves. Um, and these caves have really interesting names. One of the caves is called Breathing Cave, and it got that name because apparently you were able to put a 2x4 into a small chamber, and after a few minutes, it would get blown out from a gust of wind. And so the university actually did some studies on it, and they couldn't believe what they found, and they wanted to run the study again. They said that when they put their instruments down or whatever, what was happening was like kind of like a gun situation where there was a gigantic chamber underneath, like I'm talking about like the size of a stadium, that was forcing so much air into the smaller chamber that it was just shooting out air like that. And so they thought they weren't sure about their calculations. They wanted to go back and do it again, but they never did, unfortunately. So a lot of weird and strange stuff. And we were talking about caves. And if you saw the Beast of Brushy Creek, you saw that really strange cave at the end of the documentary that I found, which was just kind of like had no explanation for.
Are
And
you
that
are
was
you
really
talking about,
creepy.
are you talking about the one that had the steel door? That
Yeah,
one?
yeah,
That was really odd, and you and I were kind of messaging back and forth about that the other
right.
day. And I asked you, and I had not seen your documentary yet. And I said, well, is there a cave? Is it the entrance to a cave or a cavern? Is there like occult activity there? Like
Right.
I didn't know the background to all of this yet. And
Yeah.
it turned out that that was kind of like, it entailed all of that, actually, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There's a little bit of everything. Like it's in even, unfortunately, even what really got me interested in what was happening was, I hate to say it, but the dead bodies that were showing up. Uh, in 2016,
Oh,
which is the same year that we were named the second safest city in America or something like that, we had three
oh,
bodies wash up in the Brushy Creek. Two of them were 6 days apart. And one of them, we have no explanation. We have no identity for that person. We have no idea how they died. We just know that they were found along the Brushy Creek. And the other two, one, he left his car 5 miles away where he was found in the Brushy Creek, man in his 40s. They did say he was like a drowning or whatever, but really not sure about that. And the other person that was found at 2 in the afternoon by the town's most famous monument, the Round Rock. We have a rock that comes out of the ground. It's like almost like King Arthur's Round Table. It's a big stone that's just completely round, and that's really interesting in itself too, because there's a lot of strange history behind that. But he was found right next to that rock, which is like, how the heck does that happen? Like it's in the afternoon, and nobody saw anything. Like really, really strange stuff. And that's really what got me interested. And there'd actually been a body every year, 2017, 2018, 2019. There had been a body popping up um, every year. Like it was insane. Even last year, it's unfortunate, but I have on my phone. It's never been reported. There was a body that was found in a pond very close to where I live now. I had heard about it on Facebook or whatever, and I go out there, and there's a guy sitting on the bench, and I see this old man, and I start talking to him and stuff, and we're talking, and I'm asking him, I'm like, hey, did CSI come out here or whatever? Because there's a body like out there, and he's like, dude, CSI was here for like 5 minutes. This is what he told me. He's like, they were here for like 5 minutes and they left. And no, this has never been put on the news or anything. I have the video of them taking the body out. Like, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna hear more about this on the news. Nothing, never happened. Which is like, what the hell's going on? Now, I'm just gonna tell you this right now, okay? In Williamson County, where I live, and I'm gonna get in so much trouble for this. In Williamson
uh-oh.
County, where I live, we do not have a medical examiner, okay? The judge gets to tell how people are killed, are deceased.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Someone that has no medical history is able to distinguish how people are killed here. Doesn't that sound a little weird to you?
Do you know what? Wait, okay. I'm not gonna. I have something similar that was going on in one of my a town close to me. We have something that's like really strange that's been going on, and people were attributing it to like the good old boy network. People that were clearly being unalived intentionally were all being were all being documented through certain area, I guess, like let's say sheriff's department or something.
Sure, yeah.
As and the judges too, they were like signing off on it as self unaliving, self deletions, let's just say. And but it was clearly homicides and stuff.
Yeah,
And so it's just really odd that that's going on in this day and age right now. It's just really odd that things
yeah,
like this can happen.
and you would think like with a population the size we have, like we don't have a medical. Are you kidding me? Like it's just to me, it's insane. But that was one of the reasons why I started doing the research. Unfortunately, was just like I wanted to know like what was happening with these bodies and stuff. It's just like really crazy. And then something happened in 2017 that again I'd like to circle around to that happened at the end, just like because it's really weird or whatever. But yeah, you were talking about like ritualistic stuff and all that, and we were talking about that cavern that was there, and it's just like it's just a yeah weird cavern that has a steel door on it. Or a cavern, yeah, it has a steel door that's able to withstand a nuclear blast. It's a 1,300-pound steel door that was like lowered into this area. It's all just insane. And these construction workers that sent me the video, they found this cave that had been covered up with debris and sticks, like someone was trying to hide it, and they found it while they were working on a road, and they're like terrified. If you see the video, they're like so scared they don't even go inside of it. And so that's initially how I heard about it. And we went there, and going inside was probably the stupidest thing I'd ever done, going in there, because we were not prepared. That door could have shut, and no one would have known we were there. Like, it was in the middle of nowhere. It was, yeah, we were really, I looked for it for about 2 weeks because the construction workers did not give me the location. They just said it's in this area. And with GPS and stuff, walking out there, it took me about 2 weeks, and we found it. And yeah, we weren't really prepared for what we found. It was just crazy. Yeah.
I mean, okay, my thoughts. My thoughts before you go further into this.
Sure,
my
yeah.
thoughts were when we first started talking about it, and I watched the documentary at first, I was thinking fallout shelter or a survival place, like where people go to, bug out, like a bug out shelter or something. But it seemed to be like stone, like a stone wall was built. Okay.
Yeah.
In front of the entrance to a cave is what it looked like when she got there. And there were 2 air holes. There were at least 2 or more air holes there. And so there were like little windows. And so, and the door locked from the outside. I think that's a very important detail.
The outside only.
From the outside. So it's not trying to keep people out. It's trying to keep something in.
Well, you're also missing the big giant stone face that was carved into the side of the wall. Like, there's no explanation for that. There's a giant, about 3-foot long stone face that was carved into the wall that almost looks like a totem. It looks like a totem. It looks weird. It has like dots on its face. Like, it's really strange. And yeah, I have no explanation for that. Just really weird stuff. That's where I live.
Could have been a Bigfoot?
I mean, I've heard people have told me they've speculated, and I mean, it has lines, kind of like it's trying to resemble fur or something. Like, it's weird, yeah, and that's where I live. Kind of like one of the weirdest places, I think, in the in Texas, honestly. Really,
how far
really
back
weird
did you
stuff.
go? How deep into that cave did you go?
I mean, we went as far back as our lights kind of provided us. I had a crappy cell phone, and he had a flashlight that was not very good. And it was just like, kind of like, it was just, there was openings everywhere. It's like you could go left, you could go up, and there was a hole in the ceiling, and I have it in the video, in the documentary, where I'm shooting up, and spiders are just coming out of this hole like crazy. They're just falling out of this hole. It's in the documentary, and you're just like, oh my God. But yeah, we never found the end of the cavern. It just went on, and we didn't have the stuff to go. I'm not a professional spelunker or anything like that. I didn't have any of that equipment, and yeah, we just turned around after it started getting dark. Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. So the worst thing that could happen, in my opinion, would be your batteries go out on your flashlights and stuff. And if you're documenting like Bigfoot and things like that, and you're doing these documentaries, you probably know that when you get in areas of high strangeness, your batteries will drain sometimes. And so that would be my worst. That would be the worst, to go down there and the batteries give out, because I've done at least one cave investigation in Tennessee, and it was definitely, I mean, I almost get anxiety thinking about how deep we went into that cave, and how our feet were like getting stuck in the mud and stuff. It was full of mud on the floor in there.
That's scary,
and it could have ended badly for all of us. So I guarded the door while the guys went deeper back in the back of it. I didn't want to go back there any further.
Yeah. Batteries dying would have been something, but like that door closing would have been like game over for us. Like, we would be stuck there, and no one would know where we were. Like, that was the scariest thing. Like, after a while after that, I was having nightmares, just kind of like that door closed, like, holy, that would have been bad news. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But,
well, do you have any like missing 411 clusters of missing people? Or is there like a cluster there or anything, or do people go missing there often?
Well, I don't know about missing. I think the body is more of anything of what's really happening. We're getting, I mean, the body's popping up. Yeah, I don't see anything there.
You don't have a cluster there, as far as I can see. Texas doesn't even have a cluster. That's
Yeah, I
odd.
mean, like I said, people in my area don't even know about the deaths taking place. They had no idea. When I started research, we were like, "What? Like three bodies in 2016? When did that happen?" Like it's really like it's. I don't want to say they cover it up or anything, but you can see that. I don't know what this map is, the one on the
That's
bottom,
the
but all that.
caves.
Okay, all that
Caves.
blue right there in Texas. That's where I'm at, right there.
That's the
That's the
cave systems.
that's the Balcones escarpment. That's where like, it's visible from space. I mean, it's just caverns and just it's all over. Like we get our water from the Edwards Aquifer, which is a gigantic underground aquifer that feeds San Antonio, Austin, and many other areas here. But
Wow.
yeah, it's like I said, it's just full of caves, caverns. Um, really interesting place that's been inhabited, for centuries by the ancient native people, but we have proof that they lived here. um, really interesting stuff. But you talked about missing people. I told you when we were texting in 2020 there was a girl who actually went missing along the Brushy Creek, and she was carrying a blue suitcase and an antique Victorian doll with her when she was missing. That's the last thing she was seen carrying. They did find her, which awesome. But from what I've heard, they say that she's not the same, and I'm not. I can only speculate about that. I haven't spoken to her or anything like that, but that's what I've heard. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's
really,
tragic.
yeah,
Tragic.
yeah,
Well, I'm glad they found her. I'm glad they found her.
absolutely,
That's
yeah,
good. But it makes you wonder. Well, but there is a lot of occult going back to this occult activity and stuff.
uh,
And okay, so I bring this up very often. Our good friend William Nighthawk. I have consulted with him on some cases that I've done out in the field. He is a Native American shaman, medicine man, and he has talked. He has his own YouTube channel called Nighthawk High Strangeness Podcast, and he's talked about how in places where there are, let's just say, like burial grounds or any kind of sacred land, uh, a lot of times there will be cryptid activity there, like Bigfoots, Dogmen, hell crawlers, whatever you got, whatever they can conjure up out there. And they're
sure,
kind of like conjured there through curses and blessings, either blessings or curses. It depends on how you look at it, your perception. But they are put there, conjured there, summoned there, manifested there to protect that land. Okay, at all costs. And so that's why there's concentrations of like dogmen at burial mounds and stuff. Let's just or the
sure,
hairy men there. It could be an
yeah.
explanation as to why they're there.
Well, it's unfortunate because, like, when I was walking around with that camera talking to the construction workers, it's really unfortunate. But one of them came up and I asked him, I was like, "Hey, did you guys ever hit any, burial grounds or anything like that?" And his words were, "Oh, we hit that crap." He didn't, he said the S word, but he said crap all the time. So that's like, dude, that's like sacred, And the way he just described it was like, "Oh yeah, we get that crap all the time." Like, very disrespectful the way he was saying it. And in
Mm.
Texas, we have a really weird law where the construction company gets to hire their own, if they find bones or anything, they get to hire their own anthropologist or scientist to come to the area and survey it. So a lot of times they'll get people that's kind of in favor of what they're doing, like, "Oh, nothing to see here. Go ahead and build your apartments or your new houses or whatever. Nothing to see here." And that's what happened in 2014 when they found the ancient Native American burial grounds behind my house. They should have done a thorough investigation, but they just paved a road over it and went on their business. It was really unfortunate.
That's horrible. That's horrible. We've all seen
Terrible.
that movie Poltergeist. We know what
Oh yeah,
happens,
love it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
That's
true.
terrible. I mean, it
Yeah,
just
but
seems like
yeah,
you just never you. I mean, I've seen videos of subdivisions that have gone up, and I think it's Florida, and they built a driveway right on top of a cemetery, and there
that's
was like
crazy.
a coffin sticking out of the ground right in somebody's
Oh my God,
yard.
yeah, it's
They were just like desecrating this place and
yeah,
building driveways and houses on top of it. It's really that's first of all, it's disrespectful, but it's dangerous too. Like,
right. No,
couldn't
absolutely,
imagine.
yeah. And they were doing some building off of the Harryman Road, and that's, to me, that's like, how can you build houses there? Like, there are so many caverns. Like, they had a cave in 2018, which is like, how are they still trying to build there? Makes no sense. And every year we get cave ins and stuff. all over, north of Austin, where I'm at, Williamson County. It happens almost every year. It's crazy. Yeah,
Oh, we have a
cave-ins and
question in
stuff
the
like that.
audience to
Sure.
regarding the people who have been found drowned in Brushy Creek. Was there any kind of did they seem to be accidental? I know that you said that the coroner, or it's not the coroner, medical. You don't have a
Medical
medical
examiner.
examiner,
Yeah, we don't have a
so
medical examiner, so
yeah,
we do not know. We
you
don't
don't
know.
really know.
Yeah,
It's all up
we have
to a
no idea.
judge.
It's up to a
That's
judge. Yeah. Um,
okay.
yeah, and yeah, it's all up to a judge to determine cause of the death, and yeah, unfortunately, that's what they're really saying. All of them I've seen have said no trauma, no foul play suspected. That's what I've seen. Every single one.
Oh, just like
Yeah,
all of the homicides are serial unalivings of self deletions over in. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
anyways,
yeah,
over near where I live. Yeah. I mean, not where I live exactly, but close by. It's really wild. So there's a little bit of corruption, but hey, at least we see it. Like we know what's happening
right.
out there. And so there are certain counties where you just don't want to live if you've got people that are after you. Okay, because they could get away with murder for real. Okay,
Yeah.
out there. And so just it's just good to know these things for people
Yeah,
living in
that's
those
why
areas. Just be
that's
aware.
why I really don't ask too many questions in my
Mhm.
area. Like I don't talk about I love doing FOIA and stuff on other places, but I'm a little worried because I have had some, I hate to say, like intimidation tactics. Yeah, I was pulled over and they took a photo of me. I've never had that happen before. And I asked them, I'm
Oh,
like, you guys, with his personal phone, never happened. I've never had that before. Didn't give me a ticket or anything. Just said, I just need to take a picture of you. And I'm like,
what?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. It was insane. That was
Okay.
right here in my hometown.
Oh my God. Well, we've been hearing, okay, this past year was the year of the giant sightings all over North America, in Canada, and the United States. Lots of giant sightings. And there was one gentleman, and I don't know, some people said that some of this was made up, what some people say, but I don't,
Hmm.
you just never know these days. But there's a gentleman who disappeared after he took a video of a giant, an alleged giant, on the side of a
Wow.
mountain, and he was followed by the blacked out government vehicles for a while, and he eventually, I think he went missing or he ended up dead.
Oh my
And
gosh. Yeah.
yeah, and it was just he'd been followed and he was freaking out about it. So and I mean we've been hearing about that. We hear about stuff like that happening. Even people that uh, report Bigfoot sightings and things, and Dogman as well. Having the black helicopters start flying over their property. Eventually
Yeah.
and
No, I
stuff. I
hadn't
mean, it
heard
can be
about
it
that.
can be
That's terrible.
intimidating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. And yeah, no, it's interesting. And yeah, I try to be safe when it comes to what I'm doing here in my area. Yeah, it's a real deal. And I guess we could circle, like I said, we'll circle back to the crazy stuff here at the end. It's kind of tie everything
Um,
together.
oh
Yeah, but
yeah.
really, really weird stuff.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about Brushy Creek for just a minute because
Sure.
um, I mean, I was seeing there's all sorts of like graffiti. It seems like very almost like satanic rituals might happen down there. I think it's important to note stuff like that when it comes to especially cryptid sightings because I have gone to there's a place in North Georgia called Corpsewood Manor, and it's where two
Okay.
gentlemen were unalived. They were both well-known Satanists, and they used to everybody in the community knew them, and but they were even friends with Anton LaVey. Okay, it's alleged that Anton LaVey, the head of the Church of Satan back then,
Okay.
he showed them actually where to build their house on this property. Like I don't know if it
Wow.
was on a particular ley line or whatever. Well, I've actually gone out there. These men were brutally unalived along with their dogs, and their house was eventually burned to the ground. And I went out there with my team on at least one occasion. And in the place to this day, still they have a lot of satanic rituals that go on there, and they call it Devil Worshippers Mountain. That's what the locals call it out there. And but
Crazy.
it's lots of cryptid activity today.
Yeah.
Lots of cryptid
No,
activity.
not far where from the Brushy Creek in the hill country, Texas hill country, we have the Devil's Backbone, and that's just surrounded with just really paranormal cryptid activity. There was a male Indian ghost they would see so much, they actually gave him a name. They called him like Tahoe or something like that, which is like crazy. Like you see him so much, you're actually giving him a name. It's It's wild. But no, the Brushy Creek, yeah, there's a, you're talking about that graffiti and stuff. When I was growing up, there was a spot that we had heard about this activity taking place. Some of my friends wanted to show me this area, so we ride out there on our bikes and stuff. And we get out there, and they were telling me that they want to show me. It's terrible, but there was a unalive deer out there that was missing its head. Uh,
Mm.
that they believe was part of a ritual. And so they're like, "Hey, let's go out there, whatever." And I was all right. Let's. I didn't believe it. I was, let's go check it out. So we get out there. It's right over the Brushy Creek, the bridge, and it wasn't a unalive decapitated deer. We get out there, and it was a unalive decapitated dog, which we're like, "Whoa, this is not the same thing that was here before." That's what they were saying. Really creepy, strange stuff, graffiti, all this type of satanic writing everywhere. It's in the documentary. It's just like really strange. And when I was researching for the Beast of Brushy Creek, this guy had reached out to me and told me that in 2011, which is the same year that I had my experience, his wife was walking on one of the trails along the Brushy Creek. We have several trails that go in and out of the Brushy Creek, with one of their kids in a stroller, and it was the year we had the drought. And she said, I have it in writing. I have the husband telling me this. He said that she had seen a group of hooded people with candles performing a ritual in one of the dry creek beds there in the Brushy
Mhm.
Creek. I have all this written, I have all this. And I was like, oh my God, let me interview her. And he was just like, heck no, she does not want to be on camera talking about that.
No.
It's really strange stuff. And I'll go even a little bit further. Williamson County, not along the Brushy Creek, but on a creek that I believe intersects the Brushy Creek in 2023, there was a body found in a field out in the middle of nowhere. A farmer had found it and called, and it was really crazy. And so I'm at a local car show in my area, just enjoying a nice afternoon, and I see a cop there, and I see him, and I was like, "Hey, I wonder if he knows anything about that." So I walk up to him and I ask him about that. And I was like, "Hey, did you hear about that body they found?" First thing he says, "Oh, you mean that?" I don't know if I should say it.
Mm.
M word that happened, murder that
Yeah.
happened. That's what he said. Like, just he just said out like that, and I was like,
Mm.
yeah, I guess." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Let's go talk to my chief or captain or whatever." So I'm like following behind him, and he's a big guy. He's in front of me, so I'm kind of like hidden. And he yells out to the captain or whatever. He's like, "Hey, what's the deal on whatever to whatever?" And then the guy's like, "Oh, he goes, another state is involved with that." And then I pop up. I'm like, "Another state's involved with that?" And he looks at me like, "Oh, like he's like, yeah, another state's involved with that." Like he didn't want me to know that. So that was in 2023. Another body that just popped up that we have no idea cause of death, identity. We have no information about that. And apparently another state is involved with that. So
Mm.
who, if
I don't
you, you
know.
know,
I
yeah,
don't know if you dig into it, might be another HIPAA violation. I don't know.
it could
Protection.
be, yeah, it could be. And yeah, it worries me to, do that type of stuff in my area, but I might have to, because we that was in
Oh,
2023 and they said they were going to update the public. There's been no update. So we have no
oh
idea who that person was, how they died, anything like that. Really, really,
my gosh. Well,
yeah.
I probably shouldn't say this too, but I mean, I've actually been warned against by people. Oh gosh, I mean, I'm not going to get into details, but I've been warned about even talking about the rituals that go on in our national parks. Okay, sometimes there are. I'd mentioned the Good Old Boy Network, and so I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a Southern girl from the South. I know all about that Good Old Boy Network and stuff and how that works. I also worked in politics my whole life. Okay,
There
so
you go.
I'm familiar with it, but yeah, before I was public about being a Bigfooter, I was in politics. Okay, but but never put it past. I was warned to be real careful about talking about like Satanism, satanic stuff, like in national parks and things, because some of the local officials might have been involved in some of that stuff. Okay, so and I'm not going to say where
Yeah.
names or anything. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know nothing
Yeah.
about nothing. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying they're. I'm not saying they are, but I'm just saying it's a
Yeah.
possibility.
Well, when I
Okay.
grew up, where I grew up here in the early '90s to late '80s, we had what was called the Satanic Panic, which was
Yes.
a real thing, and people were. It was almost like the Salem witch trial. People were accusing people of black magic and being in cults and all this stuff, and it was unfortunate because it got too it got two people, it destroyed their
Mhm.
lives. These people that, well, I don't want to go too much into detail about that,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, that was real. The Satanic Panic. Go look that up. That was right in my area here. So
Yeah.
there's been a history of that type of activity for a really long time in the area. That's just a
Yeah.
fact. Yeah.
That's right. Forbidden Planet. I saw that too. Okay. I saw that on the news. A lady was given a, I mean, we're talking about it. We might as well bring it up. There was a lady that was given a report on the California fires out of Los Angeles, and she was an official of some sort, and she actually had on an upside down cross on her necklace. I saw
Wow.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just stuff that I've observed, and so did Forbidden
That's
Planet.
no, it's
They
great. You're
did
being
too.
observant like
Yeah.
that. That's what we need. We need, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just something to look out for because there's a lot of things that we've probably have. It's just I'm not saying it hasn't been exposed or anything. It's like a lot of things are coming to the light today, and we're I'm observing things more now.
Yeah, it's
Things that are
harder to
really out of
hide
place.
things, I'd say now. It's getting a
Yeah,
little harder to leave things under the rug there. Yeah.
yeah.
I agree.
And you're really good about digging into the and requesting these Freedom of Information Act documents. And
Yeah.
how hard is it to do that? I mean, is there a process? What is the process?
Yeah, I mean, it's just really it can be difficult when you don't really have much information to work off of. And I mean, with a
Mhm.
FOIA request, it's like you change one or two words, you'll get denied, you'll get approved. It's really like, maybe you'll get a denial and then you'll get it back, and then you'll change one or two words and you'll send it back and it'll be approved. So it's kind of a hit or miss. The more information you have is always, the better, better chance you get of having success. But yeah, it can be difficult, and waiting is probably the hardest part. Getting stuff back. Like I have this, I have right here. This is actually the first and only uh, Bigfoot report ever released by the Bureau of Indian Affairs. This is the only one that they've ever
Mhm.
released. This one took me about 8 months to get. I'd done the FOIA requests, and I think I'd done a few of them, and I was waiting and waiting, and I was like, "Oh, I'm never going to hear back from them, or maybe I'll hear back in like 5 years." And then a couple of months, I was saying about a month ago, I received this Xerox copy of the only Bigfoot report they wanted to release. I'll say that they said they did have other things on file, but they did not want to release that because they said it was exempt or whatever. So I could possibly, and I'm thinking I will, um, make an appeal for that because they didn't have a good excuse. So I think I'm going to make an appeal for that and try to get some more records. But to me, this report is probably my favorite report that I found researching so far because it's you hear so much about the Native American culture having contact and history with them, and it's just really, really we hear about that all the time. And I think to me, if you know about like the old Chapman account, I think it was like in the 40s, where the woman was in her cabin and this thing came out of the woods and it like scared them and they had to go into town, and it was like probably one of the more famous Bigfoot reports that's ever happened. I think this is on par with that encounter. It's one of the most incredible things I've ever read in the Bigfoot field, and I'll go over it if you want.
Yeah,
It's so crazy. I
please
mean, it
do.
was yeah, for sure. I'll go ahead and what happened here is it's also really weird too. So this was in June 25th, 1978. This report has not seen the light of day since 1978. To me, that's just like it's insane, Like no one has
46
ever found
years.
this before. What's that? Yeah,
46
exactly.
years.
It's
I
so
know that
crazy.
year. Yeah.
It's so crazy. And if you want, I'll read a little bit of it here.
I
Let me
would love
see where
that.
I should start. Yeah. And if you guys want all these documents are on my Patreon. You can download them, save them for your database or whatever. Okay. So here, I'll go ahead and start with this page right here. Report received by telephone. So this was actually a call. So there may be a chance there's audio somewhere of that. And I would really love to get my hands on that audio. That might be the next thing that I try to get. Sunday, this was at 7:49 in the afternoon in June, so the sun's still going to be out around that time. And this was on the Mescalero Indian Reservation in New Mexico. Uh, and it says right here, narrative of information received, call and requested an officer redacted. She advised she had seen an animal or Bigfoot by her residence. Needs someone to come check it out. That's what it says right here. This is a federal report saying this woman had encountered a Bigfoot on her property, and she needed police to come check it out.
Right.
That's a fact. It's insane,
Mhm.
and it gets even crazier when you read the actual report here. And I'll read some of this report, and it's a lot of pages. I'll just read a portion of this here.
Okay.
So we have the memorandum from the agency special officer redacted. Of course, it's redacted. Uh, in the subject at the top, it says animal or Bigfoot seen by redacted resident. Okay. And I'll read you what their report was. Bigfoot was sighted. They went out there, they responded, and this is what they wrote. I checked the area where this animal was seen. I had officer redacted and conservation officers redacted with me. Officer redacted and myself walked up to where the animal was seen. The conservation officers drove up to the green water tank location above Galtiero Flats. After checking the area, the only thing we found were tracks belonging to a bear. Bear.
Bear.
Yeah. Officer Redacted said he would put a bear trap in the area. Officer Redacted also advised that due to the dry weather, it may be causing animals to come down from the mountains looking for water and food. So that's exactly what they said. It's really interesting. And to me, the best part here is reading what they were speaking. And I wish we had a witness report here, but we don't. We have them talking to the witness, and this is what they said the witness said. The persons who saw the animal were redacted. Both said there's more than one person, so that's interesting too. It wasn't just one person, it was multiple. Both persons said the animal they saw was standing up and had his hands in the air. Both subjects were frightened, and they began telling me that they heard Bigfoot was seen at Head Springs and that they were sure what they saw was a Bigfoot. I advised them I would go up there and see what it was. So these people, these Native Americans, were sure what they saw was a Bigfoot, and these not Native American people went up there to check it out, and they said, "No, what you saw was a bear." Totally discluded what they saw. They said they're sure of what they saw was a Bigfoot. This is a federal report here, guys. This has never seen the light of day. This should be like, this should be a big. I think this should be a big deal right here. This is to me, it's like a trifecta. It's from an Indian reservation. Federal officers, local law enforcement was involved. To me, it's really weird because it's like when you think of reservation, you think of like them being autonomous. They have their own law enforcement. They do everything on their own. Why would they be contacting a federal official? Not only that, but it's a conservation officer. Like a conservation officer went up there. Like, what the heck's going on here? Really strange and weird stuff. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's probably one of my more favorite ones that I got. And I got that just about a month ago. And I think to me, it's probably one of the better pieces of data ever in the Bigfoot realm. I would
Mhm.
say to me, it's just fascinating stuff. If this person was still alive, I would love to just interview them and see what they would have to say. I mean, could you imagine that? Insane.
Yeah. Okay. And Sovereign Cosmic Wildman is bringing up the late great Claudia Ackley. Same BS line they told the late great Claudia Ackley. Now this was
Mhm.
I got to bring her up. Okay, because
Sure.
she and her daughters, I believe, had encountered a Bigfoot at a national park. They reported on it. I believe she started getting harassed, and her death was quite suspicious, according to what some people say.
Mhm.
She thought she was being followed, and I don't know the exact story behind it, but I do remember bits and pieces of it to where things got a little suspicious around
That's
her
wild.
passing. Hmm. Yeah, for reporting on this, and I think no, she filed a
Oh wow.
lawsuit. That's what it was. Yeah, she filed a lawsuit against the government, against the national parks, I think. Um, and they're going to have to go to court over it, discovery and stuff like that. I think so.
Yeah, that's
Um,
it's
yeah,
crazy. Um,
yeah,
yeah, no, it's and people are like, okay, so I'd seen I hate to say it, but kind of like veteran, old school Bigfoot celebrity personality. I'm not going to name names or whatever, but
Okay.
they were kind of on their show recently talking about like nothing happened. Nothing's been happening in the Bigfoot subject these last few years. And I'm like, nothing has been happening. Like this past year, I had 3 phone calls that I got, photos, these documents. Like, dude, what are you talking about? Nothing's happening. Like, you gotta put some effort into it, I guess. It's I don't know. I didn't like that. Like a lot of stuff's happening. I wish more people, with the help of you, Jessica, and other people, we'll be able to get more people lasered in on this type of stuff because it's happening. We're getting phone calls almost every year, reports every year from law enforcement agencies. It's a real thing. We had one just last year in October. The one I was mentioning, that Kisatchie Park one. I have the documentation for that. Really strange stuff, but it's happening. I mean, I have not one, not two, but I have 3 alleged Bigfoot reports, 3 that were called in. They were all made on the same day, which is like, holy crap, that's like really, really strange. Yeah, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Bigfoot YouTuber Bob Gimlin. He does a lot of Bigfoot videos and stuff like that. So this is actually one of the ones that I had followed up on because I had heard about it when it originally happened uh, in East Texas, Santa Fe, Texas. People were reporting an ape on the loose and all this other stuff, and I had heard about it. I didn't really think much of it at the time. I thought it was just another escaped animal because in Texas around that time, 2018, we were having a lot of escaped animals, like tigers on the loose. It's a fact. It was happening a lot in 2019. Escaped animals, tigers and stuff that were on the loose. In San Antonio, there was a tiger on the loose for like 3 days. In Houston, there was a tiger on the loose for a week, which is like crazy. So I thought that's what was happening. I didn't think it was a Bigfoot or anything like that, but I watched Bob's video, really good video, and I was like, huh. Well, I wonder if there's any, if I do a FOIA, will I get any documents? And I got 3 reports. The crazy thing about this thing, Jessica, was that I did the FOIA request. I was looking for the phone calls. I really wanted the phone calls. And what happened was this got kicked up all the way to the Attorney General of Texas. And I'm still waiting to hear back. The Attorney General of Texas is going to determine whether or not I get these alleged Bigfoot phone calls. How weird is that? Doesn't that sound really weird? Why? It's just like, why? I don't get it.
Wow. I was actually okay. Oh gosh, my brain is working overtime right now while you're saying that because I did an investigation of a state park here in Georgia a couple years ago,
Mhm.
and a gentleman who is a state park ranger contacted me. I have the dates. I have the park. I have the incidents. I know what happened there, according to what he told me. Um, we were getting conflicting reports actually from between the state park ranger and the coroner's office when somebody died. I was told that someone died. That's how we got out there actually eventually. It was like 9 sightings at this one park in 1 month. State park ranger got in touch with me through a mutual friend,
Mhm.
and he didn't know me. She recommended that we get in touch, and we ended up eventually going out there, and there was a death that had an involvement with Bigfoot, is what I was told. And so that's what took me and 3 of my guys out there to investigate this place. And what he had told us uh, did not line up with what the coroner said because one of my teammates knows the coroner out there,
Yeah,
and so it just didn't add up. But my goodness, through a FOIA request, we could probably find out
yeah, you
exactly what
probably
happened.
could. Yeah, there is
Yeah.
well,
Okay.
yeah, maybe I'll tell you offline, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
We'll
might be
talk
able to
about
help
it
you with that.
later.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
I think
But
it's important. I think it's
yeah,
important, when it comes to this kind of stuff, and the fact that he was
absolutely.
a state park ranger, and he actually told me that he had to write the reports and send them directly to the governor's office in Georgia, and that they
That's
were
wild.
making fun of him. The other
Yeah,
people that he works with made fun of him because
that's
he was taking
terrible.
it serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's it's kind of the same thing with the guy kind of being laughed at in that 911 phone call. It's really bad, unprofessional. No, but these calls, like I said, I wanted to get the 911 calls, but unfortunately, I'm still waiting to hear back. They said by now I probably should have heard about it, I would imagine, but I just want to go over some of these because it starts off interesting and then it gets weirder. Okay, because initially what had happened was they were saying in the local parks of the area said they had to make a statement because multiple people were seeing this monkey in the area. People were calling it in. I had 3 calls in one day. And actually, I believe there's actually 4 calls. There was another call that came in from a neighboring agency. And I think that's really what kicked off all the other calls. And so I'm just going to read it to you right here, real quick. It says, this was 2019. It says, event spawned, game warden advised they'll be speaking to the public about the issue, possible monkey sighting. That's what it says here, okay? And this was at 10 a.m. This happened at 10 a.m. in that area. And a couple of hours after that, around 7:53, we get another call that came in the same day. Here it says UTL on ape. Here's howling, thinks it may be an ape on the loose. So we went from monkey to ape in a few hours. And the other crazy thing is this thing was on the run. If it was an escaped monkey or who knows, it was on the run for that long. It's like, oh, that's kind of scary. And then the last call that came in was right before midnight. And I'm going to read you what it says here. This time, this was a welfare check. So the people called, they had to go check on these people to make sure they were okay. This is a welfare check. I have it right here. And the other thing it goes, okay, I should have said this at the beginning. I should have said this. I forgot to say this. At first, this starts off as an animal. This starts off as an animal control problem. It evolved from an animal control problem to a suspicious person call. So how does that happen? How does that happen? You know, that's just like what. And so again, and it went up from priority. It was a priority 3. It went up to a priority 2. So they were taking this seriously. The last call that came in was right before midnight. This was a welfare check. So they checked on the people that made the call to make sure they were safe. Right here, it says caller advises he hears primate, possible sighting. So we went from monkey to ape to primate. And this guy actually got a visual of it. So that's 3 different calls that came in on the same day. Really strange and weird. You want to know the craziest thing?
Yeah.
They never reported an ape being captured. So if this was an ape on the loose, it never got captured, you know? So it's just really strange and odd that all this happened on the same day. Really creepy stuff. And I really hope to get those phone calls to hear. I want to hear because we don't have a transcript here. I want to hear how the people described it. Maybe they give like, oh, I'm looking at it right now. And it's, you know, they give like a really good, who knows, you know, they give a good description or something to that effect. So hopefully we'll get those phone calls. Guys, if you will, please, I hate to, you know, well, please write the Attorney General of Texas and say, hey, we need to get these calls. Tell him to release these calls, guys. I need your help. So please do that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when I first started doing Bigfoot field research, I thought I was going to go in the woods looking for a big old monkey in the woods. Personally, I didn't know. I thought it was like some kind of primate or Gigantopithecus or something. I didn't know. And today, it's much different. Much different.
Yeah.
It's not a monkey in the woods, definitely. But we joke around about that. That's our go-to joke. We're like, we're just going to go look for big monkey in the woods. You know, that's not what it is. It's not at all. And Jeff Townsend knows. Thank you, Jeff. My OG henchman is in the chat. Thank you for being here, Jeff.
Yeah.
We have a lot of Bigfoot field researchers in the chat. A lot of them.
Great.
You
Yeah.
know, a lot of
Great.
people who've experienced Bigfoot before, the hairy men.
Yeah.
So they
Real
know.
quick, like, I just want to say, like, a lot of this stuff is on my Patreon because, unfortunately, guys, this information is not free. I had to pay over
Mhm.
$100 to get this right here, and that's a terrible. You know, this stuff should be free and available to the public. It's not. Every 911 phone call I've had to pay for, which is like ridiculous when you think about it. So, if you really want to help, you know, fund the research and help me get more documentation, please consider subscribing to the Patreon. Yeah.
Yes, please do, you guys. I didn't realize it was that expensive until we started learning about the missing 411.
Yeah.
Okay, the missing 411. I guess it was David Palacios started digging into the missing persons reports, and they were asking him. I think the government was telling him, the national parks or wherever he went for this information, they were charging him like $1 million or something outrageous for all
Yeah,
of that work and stuff.
I'll just give you an example. So I did a FOIA request on the Florida Parks Department, and I wanted to get all their information that they had. And right off the bat, they didn't give me an excuse. They said, "Hey, we have over 15,000 Bigfoot emails. That's what they wrote. We have over. What is the Florida parks doing with over 15,000 Bigfoot emails? You know, and so they
Yeah.
told me, they're like, "Hey, this is going to be way too expensive for you to pay for. Do you want to break it up?" And I'm like, "Well, they didn't even give me a number." And then I told them, all right, I was like, "Okay, well, give me this many." And they're like, "Yeah, that's going to be $5,000." And I'm like, "Okay, give me this many." They're like, "Yeah, that's going to be $2,000 or whatever." I'm like, "Geez." So we settled on 200. I have 200 Bigfoot emails released from the national parks. I'm sorry, the Florida Parks Department, and that cost me about 100 and that was about $100, I would say. But I was able to look, and I found some really interesting emails from the that have never been released before from the interior of the Parks Department. And I'll give you probably one of the weirdest. There's a few of them that are really weird in there. We'll start off on a light note real quick. On one of them, there was a picture of like this giant hog. Okay, they killed this giant hog out there, and this was like an internal email they were passing around. And someone writes in there, with this, oh, what says, along with these and Bigfoot, no wonder people go missing, or something to that effect. And you're just like, wow, I don't know how to
Oh,
take that. That's kind of crazy. Um, and that's
so
one of the
they
emails.
know.
I mean,
They know.
that's one of
That's
the emails.
crazy. That's
Well, I'll tell you
that's
more.
not too crazy.
No, I'll tell you more, Jessica. It gets really crazy. Um, so in this email, I have a one email sent from a worker to one of the bigger people up there, one of the higher people up there, and they're saying, "Hey, I went out at 11 p.m. to check the Bigfoot track that I cast. It hasn't dried yet. It has not dried yet. I'm sorry, I used the wrong type of plaster. I'll check on it again tomorrow or whatever." And you're just like, when I'm reading that, I'm like, what the? Are you serious? Like, they literally says in there, that Bigfoot track that I cast. And the other thing was like, he says, I went out there at 11 p.m. Why in the heck are you going out at 11 p.m. in a swamp in Florida? Who would do that? You know? And it's like that seems like he was kind of hide what he was doing under the cover of darkness. That's just my opinion. That's what it seems like. But this guy's going out close to midnight, and he's saying in this email, "Oh, I'm sorry, I used the wrong plaster for the Bigfoot cast. It's not dry yet." Like, what the hell is going on there? Really
So
strange.
wait a second. So what you're saying is our tax dollars are going towards park rangers casting tracks of Bigfoot and keeping those tracks secret from everybody. I guess they're taking them to the Smithsonian to go hide underneath the basement, right?
I mean,
All the tracks.
yeah, I
All
can
the tracks.
I can only say what's we can circle back to that actually here later. Uh, but no, yeah, I mean, it's just like that. I think if people were to see that, it's just like that's like almost blatant, you know? It's just like yeah, he just says like, "Oh, the Bigfoot tracks that I cast aren't ready." You know, like what the? That's just, to me, that was insane. And I have all their information. I have the emails. None of that stuff is redacted because it's emails. Really interesting stuff. All that stuff is on my Patreon too. Over 200 emails in there if you guys want to check that out. And I'm working to get more. I should be getting the next batch in. That's going to be like a thing. Every month I'm going to end up getting like new batch of Bigfoot emails from the Parks Department until we get all 15,000. That's the goal, guys. We're going to work to get all those emails from the Parks Department. And another one in there, one of those emails, it says Chapala photos. Okay, so there's photos in there in these emails that they're trading. It says Chapala photos. And all these people are looking at a photo that I don't have. I don't have this photo, but they're referencing it. They're giving their guess on what this thing is in the photo. One of them says that's a child. Another one says that's a guy in a suit. And then someone says that's a Bigfoot. They're all giving their opinions on what this is in this picture. It's just like, what? That's just crazy. So that's going to be one of my next FOIAs, is trying to get the actual photos that they're talking about. I haven't seen them yet, but hopefully I'll be able to get that with a FOIA request.
Oh my gosh. I mean, everybody that's watching tonight, you guys, this is okay. So a lot of people want the hardcore evidence of Bigfoot, right? They want the data. They want
Right.
the proof. They want it written down on paper with a government seal
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
a signature. Okay. Now, if you guys want that, if you're here for that, and that's what you guys want, because see, like I come out, I do my boots on the ground. I have experience. I have personal experience. I talk about that. I don't have like government seals and documentation and my government signatures and all my stuff. I just got experience and I talk
Right.
about what I've experienced. Okay, but you have actual, and if people are looking for that, a lot of people are. We have to support people like Eric, y'all. Okay, Eric, you
Appreciate
need
that.
all the support because you're doing the work like David Palacios is doing for all the missing people. You're doing this for the Bigfoot community and the cryptid community. And
Appreciate
so
that. Yeah.
I think it's wonderful that you're doing this. I mean, this is something that you know you're taking the time to do this, and
Yeah.
it's very much needed. And it is, and I know Robin's in the chat. Hey, Robin's out in California, affected by the fires out there. So thank you for being here tonight, Robin. I hope you're doing okay. She said that she saw that episode with David Paulides. He said $1 million for that information. That's a deterrent, and that's exactly why they're asking for all this money to get all this.
Yeah,
That's
I
it's a
wouldn't be
lot.
surprised. Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, just with the Florida parks, the number, they didn't even want to give me a number. They were just like, yeah, you can't afford this. So then I was like, okay, well, what can I get? And so that's what I ended up with the 200, but they didn't even give me a number because they knew it was just going to be like some
They
crazy
just
number that no way. Yeah.
they probably just made that up on spot. They're like, well,
Yeah.
you just tell us what you want and we'll give you a number. It's like going to buy a used car. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
seriously. Yeah. That's the
that's
vibe. Yeah.
crazy.
No,
Man.
it's there's totally documentation out there, and I'm working on a book that's really going to get me in a lot of trouble. But I have all the documentation for it. It's a fact, and I could even talk about it right now. You know, it's going to get me a lot of heat, and it's going to get me a lot of probably a lot of bad publicity or whatever. But I have everything I need to show that it happened, and that's the fact that not only has the government known since 1969, but they have funded people. They've been involved for the search of Bigfoot since 1969, and I have the documentation to prove that. That's a fact.
Yeah.
There's no going around it. I have the documentation on my phone. I mean, it's 100% real. They have been involved since, like I said, 1969 in searching for whatever this thing is. That's a fact.
Yeah.
I literally have a It's crazy. But I have the documentation of an expedition that was government funded in 1970 to go to the Cascade Mountains to find and possibly capture a Bigfoot. This is documented. It's fact. It's factual. Uh, and it's just like when I found this, I was just like, oh my God, this is like the smoking gun. It was just crazy. It's real. It's 100% real.
Okay. Well, I support you 100% in putting that out. Okay. I would love to see that and to hear about it. Hey, when you get that book done or whatever you're going to do with it, you come back on the show and
Yeah,
we're going to talk about it. I mean, that's wild. I mean, because the Patterson Gimlin film was from 1967, I believe.
right. Yeah.
And that was, I mean, to this day, that's the best Bigfoot evidence I think that we've got, honestly. It's a Sasquatch right there out in the open.
That was actually mentioned in the report that they sent to the White House. They sent this to the White House. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick, Jessica. I have it on my phone here.
Okay.
Hold on real quick.
Yeah, they do. Our governments definitely know more. I talk about it all the time. Our national parks know all about these Bigfoots out there. You know, you go to places like I have one of my research areas. We go out in Alabama. There's a place called Cheaha National Forest. I think it's
Okay.
National Forest, and they have when you go into their like their guard house where you go and pay to like get a camping spot or whatever, and to just pay to get into the park. It's wall to wall Bigfoot memorabilia. It's
Oh
like
wow.
plushies and magnets and cups and shirts and you name it. Bumper stickers for your car, and it's Bigfoot wall to wall because they have a lot of Bigfoot sightings there, and they
Yeah.
embrace it and they promote it and they monetize it. Okay,
No, it's
so
that's where it's kind of gone. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well, if you want to,
unusual.
yeah, no, it's so I don't know if you can see this, but oh, you probably can't. Oh, no, you're not gonna be able to see that. I'll read it to you.
But just read it
Yeah,
to us.
I'll read it to you.
I'd love to hear it.
It's a memo from the White House, Washington, December 12th, 1969. And the subject line is abominable snowman. Okay. And it says, it's very short. It says, I think this belongs with whoever can answer the legislative question. Thanks. That's what it says. That was the beginning of this government-funded expedition to kick off. And I mean, I have everything. I have not everything. There are some spots that are missing, but I mean, I have the receipt that says brought forward American Yeti expedition, 1970. This is real. This really happened.
American.
This really happened. It's a fact. Yeah, I mean,
Whoa.
it
I'm not
happened. It was real.
shocked. Okay, I think a good place to dig into as well would be like logging companies. And I know that's not like government documented, so it could be though. I don't know, but I think the logging companies, those are the ones. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with MK Davis. He's done a
I think I've
lot
heard
of
that, yeah.
he's done a lot of research on the Patterson Gimlin film and stuff. He's an amazing Bigfoot researcher, and so yeah, he I've seen his presentation live. Okay, one of his
Okay.
presentations he gave in Alabama last year, and I think the logging companies. I mean, he proved to me through his presentation. I mean, I don't know if that was his point to show that it was the logging companies that are really involved in. They were pretty much eradicating Bigfoots off of logging sites and stuff, because I think that had a lot to do with the Patterson Gimlin film, where I think they were trying to get rid of the Bigfoots from out there, and I think that it's a secret. It's like it's known, but it's in the open, but it was also a secret. You know what I mean? Like all the logging
Yeah.
companies were
It,
trying to get rid of all the Bigfoots out there when they
right.
were
No, I
doing
see
the
what you're
clearing
saying,
land.
and yeah, it would be interesting if you could get any of the information, but I don't know if they're like, I think since they're private, it might be harder to get that info. But
Yeah.
it's you mentioned like the Patterson stuff, like that's mentioned in the report. The person who submitted the report referenced the Patterson footage. He referenced the North Cascades where they were going to be conducting this investigation. He mentioned how much they're going to be paid for this. Like he mentioned all this stuff. Like this person who did this, I know for a fact was affiliated with a alphabet agency. I'll say that. He worked for an
Okay.
alphabet agency, and he says that in the document too. And finding this, and I know who this person was. Not only that, but we have a list of the people involved with this expedition. There were sheriff's departments involved. Eddie Bauer actually sponsored. They outfitted the expedition. So Eddie Bauer provided they provided the equipment, like tents and all the clothing. They provided the equipment for this Bigfoot expedition. Not only that, but it says in the document that the guys, they have a scientist willing to work quietly if they do in fact get a Bigfoot specimen. They said we have a scientist. Okay, this is the kicker. They say we have a scientist from Hardwick College willing to work silently. Okay, now Hardwick College. Okay, that's in New York. Something crazy about Hardwick College is they were the ones to kind of popularize the Gigantopithecus thing. Okay, they have a giant statue of Gigantopithecus out in front of the college. This college that says they're going to work quietly to investigate a potential Bigfoot specimen has a statue of Gigantopithecus in front of it to this day, which you're like, holy crap, did they get a specimen? Or, like it's just like really, it's just
Ooh.
really crazy stuff when you think about it. Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't know if they did, I guess. I mean,
No,
this
we
has
didn't know.
been
Yeah.
very, very much so covered up. Very much. Well, Jeff Townsend had mentioned, Teddy Roosevelt, and that reminded me of something that I've talked about before, which I found out. I was surprised. There's actually a secret society of lumberjacks. And they
Oh,
say that they still are around today, but there was like a secret society. Teddy Roosevelt was part of it back when I think it was when they first started designating federal land, to be national
right. Yeah.
park. And it's called the Concatenated Order of the Hoo-Hoo.
Oh, I'd never heard of that. Wow.
Okay, it's something to look into. I know it sounds
Yeah.
crazy. We talked about it a couple times on the show. The Concatenated Order of the Hoo-Hoo, and I think their emblem is like a black cat or something like that.
Oh,
But it sounds crazy, but
yeah.
it's worth looking into. It's definitely
I'll
worth looking because
check that
they
out.
hold
Yeah.
they hold the secrets of the national parks.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
look
there's
into it.
something, yeah, there's something that they're not telling us, and that's a fact. Like I mean, it's really hard to dispute when you have the documentation in front of you. People have always wondered, like, is there do they know about it? Is there a cover up? they know about it. They've been involved since 1969. I'm sorry if you don't believe that. There's documentation to prove that. I mean,
You got the
you can't
receipts.
argue that. You can't argue it. I'm sorry. Like they've been involved since 1969. We literally have a receipt. I mentioned it about the American expedition, Yeti expedition brought forward. It says that brought forward, and it's like a receipt. It's yeah. There's a lot of documentation, and there is some missing documentation that should be there, but it's not, and that kind of leads to some more questions. But the bulk of it is there. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff.
Eric, you literally have the receipts. Okay, you have the receipts. Not many people have the receipts for stuff like this. Like I said, I mean, on my channel, I bring a lot of researchers on my channel. We talk about our research and, boots on the ground stuff. But I've never had a guest on the show that had this much documentation of things, even like this. I had no idea. Now, listen, when I was in high school, this is going to date me. Okay. My first vehicle, I'm not going to tell you what year it was, but I drove like a Ford. Remember Ford Bronco 2s? Those are old. Okay. That was
I
a
love
long time
those
ago. I
classics.
had I had a Ford. That my first vehicle was a car that I think my mom passed it on down to me, but it was an Eddie Bauer edition Ford
Yes,
Bronco
I know
2.
exactly what you're
That's
talking
what
about.
I
Yeah,
had.
yeah.
So now I'm like, wow, okay. So like I started off in a vehicle that actually it was the edition of Eddie Bauer, which sponsored the
They
apparel and the clothing for
yes,
the first Yeti expedition in the United States. I'll be.
they outfitted the very first Bigfoot expedition in the United
Oh my
States. It
god.
was in the summer of 1970. That's a fact, 100%.
Oh my gosh. It came full circle, y'all. It did.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Back when
Well,
I was
yeah.
16.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yep, that's what it was. Yep,
Oh my
that's
God.
awesome.
This is
Yeah.
fascinating. I mean, this is absolutely fascinating. I mean, I gotta say it is kind of mind blowing. I wasn't expecting to hear about this tonight. The first you actually have the documentation from the White
Right.
House, okay, federal documents um, showing that they were actually looking for an American Yeti of all
That's right.
things,
Yep,
is what they called it.
that's right.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, there's they I mean there's a debrief that they sent to the White House that documents what they found, what they didn't find. There's an article from a biologist. There was a I'm sorry, not an article. It was a letter to the president from a biologist that was included on the expedition, and he writes about his findings. So it's interesting stuff. Yeah, very
Well,
interesting stuff. Yeah.
it's super interesting. Adolf is asking, he says, is that when they went to Tibet, the expedition you're talking about? This was
Oh,
the American Yeti.
this was in the North Cascade Mountains. Yes. Yeah.
That's New York? Is that where the
No, that's
Cascades
in
are?
Washington. It's in Washington.
Washington. Okay.
Washington,
Okay, but
Pacific Northwest.
the
Yeah.
college was in New York, right?
The
One of
college is
the
in New York. Yeah. The
okay.
college, Hardwick College, which is the college that was willing to work silently. It says that on the document, was Hardwick College in upstate New York. Yeah. And they have a Gigantopithecus statue to this day out in front of that college, which is like, what do you guys know? What do you know? Um,
Oh
and
wow.
there's a lot of really, I could dive into some. For me, I'm from Austin, and if you guys know anything, Tom Slick is one of the probably most legendary Bigfoot researchers, explorers that's ever existed. From the probably the first guy to ever do it. He was kind of like Elon Musk before Elon Musk. He was a billionaire oil man that spent a lot of money, and he researched it. And I think that's what that person was referring to, the Tibet expedition there, because Tom Slick did do an expedition to Tibet. He did many expeditions. Okay, he had yeah, that might be a whole episode by itself. But he was killed. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that.
It's
He
okay.
died. He died very mysteriously in a plane crash from his own airways. He owned his own airways called Slick Airways. They were contracted by the CIA. This is a fact. I have the documentation for it. That documentation was actually really scary to get because that took forever. I had to write a code into like the agency's website to get this. It was really weird. I've never had to do that before. So I have several documents pertaining to Tom Slick Airways. Okay. And in there are informants working for the government that have infiltrated Tom Slick Airwaves. And it literally says one of their jobs is to like sabotage Tom Slick Airways, which you're like, holy crap, that's crazy. Like this documentation is like it's like everything says classified FOUO, which is like for official use only. The documentation is crazy, but I think Tom Slick had everything he needed to be a successful Bigfoot hunter, and he might have even had more. He was alleged to have that Bigfoot hand, or the Yeti finger or whatever that was alleged, and I think they tested it, and there was a lot of controversy over that. We've never seen that ever again. Okay, but I mean, not only did Tom Slick have Tom Slick Airways, he actually created. There to this day, the Texas Biomedical Research Facility. Okay, this place was the very first place to do like ape hormone testing and stuff like that. Tom Slick was the first person to. So not only did this guy have like $1 billion, he had his own airplane and he had a facility just in case he did have something, he could take it there. So there's all that really weird stuff, and that's mentioned in the Washington documents as well. Just really crazy stuff, but it's all there.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so he had the place to take the body. Okay, because people are always asking, where's the body? Where's the Bigfoot body at? And we'll believe in Bigfoot when we see a specimen or a body.
Right.
Well, it's just like I mentioned earlier, the Smithsonian. Like where all the giant bones have been taken, all the huge skeletons that have been found all over North America. Smithsonian comes in allegedly, from what I've been told, and they will take the bones. And then they act like they never had them. They're just like, where did they go?
That too, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, people ask where the body's at. Well, who's to say that they have not gotten bodies of Sasquatch and they take them to a lab somewhere like this Tom Slick's lab or whatever his name is?
He had everything. I mean, he had everything he needed. He was a billionaire. He had the facility that he spent just insane amount of money on. State-of-the-art facility, and unfortunately he died not long after it was created. And even in the document it says that like nobody knows where his research documents are or anything like that. That's mentioned in the document. It's crazy. But yeah, we might never know how much stuff Tom Slick had, because it's alleged that he had a Yeti finger. Could he have more? I mean, he would not need to. He had his own plane service. He had his own airline, so he wouldn't need to get, someone to a freight plane or anything like that. He had his own, and they were contracted by the CIA at one point. That's a fact. I'm sorry. I probably should have said alphabet agency. My bad.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, but you mentioned that there's also in that documentation that they were saying, let's throw off the public with this. Basically, I mean, use code word. I forgot exactly what you said about it, but it was kind of like to deceive the public. Okay.
Well, the scientists, the guy said that they have a scientist ready to work silently is what he said. That's one of the things that they put in there. Yeah, it's wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's obviously a cover up. I talk about cover ups all the time. Everything has been covered up and kept from us. Our true history of where we live and the creatures that have come before us, and the people and everything is just, it's kind of a big mystery, but when you start digging and you find these documents like you've done, it helps to unravel these mysteries.
Yeah. If it was just one thing, that's something, like, oh, if it's just, just coincidence or better, but no, it's like we have several things. I mean, we have a park ranger literally saying he was medically incapacitated to go out there. We have, documents that they're charging you to get. It's just like there's just a lot of, and I've never been a big proponent of like the cover up theory until I started seeing the documentation and the lack of documentation, really the follow up. It didn't make a lot of sense,
Yeah. This would be something interesting to look into under a FOIA request. Red Edge Savage says, I heard the governor recovered more than a few Bigfoot people when Mount St. Helen blew up.
I heard that too. Yeah, I'd never thought about doing a FOIA for that, but I might have to look into that. Yeah, that's interesting.
We always get great ideas from everybody in the chat. Sure, I have the best chat on the internet. I swear to goodness I do. And it's there. I mean, there's all sorts of things that, I mean, I could just brainstorm all night and send you some ideas in case you haven't already looked into them.
I don't know if we're getting close to the end, but I'd like to circle
Yeah.
around to finally like that. I was saying we're going to circle around to like
Yes.
make it connect to my hometown or whatever.
Let's circle it around. I love
Let's
it. Yeah.
circle it. Let's circle it around. So
Okay.
so I've been doing all these FOIA requests and all this other stuff or whatever, and I mentioned the bodies showing up. You know, that was the thing that was happening along the Brushy Creek. That was just happening, and in 2017, same thing. Another body showed up. I believe there was actually two bodies that year, and
Okay.
that same year we had a ton of Bigfoot sightings. This is fact. People on social media were posting things. Hey, you know, had this experience here, whatever. It was everywhere. A lot of sightings and encounters. So much so. Well, I'll back up a little bit. There was so much stuff going on. There was actually a video taken of a creature along the Brushy Creek Road. This was posted on a group on Facebook. Many people saw this. Okay, a lot of people saw this, and they said it was a clear image. They saw this big, tall. They said it was a skinny black figure walking along the Brushy Creek, and multiple people reached out to me when I was making my research public, saying, "Hey, talk to this guy." Multiple people said, "Talk to this guy." They gave me his name of the person who took this video, and so I reached out to that person. I said, "Hey, um, these people are saying you got this video, whatever," and I'm researching it. And he goes, "Yes, I did take video, but I signed an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and I gave all my footage up to the authorities, and I can't talk about it. I have this
Oh,
message. I have all these messages." So that happened. Okay, 2017. Shortly after that, we're getting sightings all the time. The Alphabet Agency, which starts with an F, they literally contacted our chief of police in the area and said, "Hey, we hear this is an email that was leaked. It's a fact. It's out there. It was leaked by the local news. It was an email by the head of the agency in the area who emailed the chief of police, and it says, 'Hey, we've heard there's been Bigfoot sightings in your area. We are offering any assistance you need to take care of this, and we're also offering a $400,000 reward for any information or the capture of Bigfoot.'" This is the fact. It's
yeah.
out there. This is an email that was released. This was right in my hometown. Okay, this is the fact. Now, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's a publicity stunt. It's this and that." Now, Jessica, why would a federal organization get involved with a little town in Texas promoting this? Makes no sense. And have you ever known the FB whatever to
Yeah.
give to make a fake reward
Memorandums
or a
or
fake
a
reward?
reward.
Yeah,
No.
you ever
Oh,
heard of
okay.
that?
Well, I've actually okay. So, trying to remember what the topic was. We have talked about bounties on
I've heard
cryptids, and
that. Yeah,
a long time ago, I've heard about that. I know that there was kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of legislation that went through in Oklahoma, where a legislator put bounties on
right.
Bigfoot at some point. Now, but that was tongue-in-cheek, like I said.
That seemed like a publicity stunt to
It was
me.
publicity, but
Right.
I've heard that there are bounties on Bigfoots, Dogmen, and different cryptids, and they're different price ranges
Hmm.
and stuff. And I can't. It's been a long time since we talked about that, so I don't remember all of it. But it's in a
Yeah.
show from a while back. We've talked
I've
about it.
never. I'm not sure about that, but I know that
Yeah.
this is the fact they offered. We have the email and everything, and it's out there, and we know the person who sent the email was the head of the agency at the time. This is a fact. So
Mhm.
it's not like some random email. We don't know who sent it. We know who sent it. His name is on there, and he was. And I looked him up, and on his bio it says he was in charge of covert and overt secret information. And also, he was in charge of 10 secret military bases inside of Texas. So there you go. We have 10 secret bases inside of Texas, just if anybody was curious about that. So this guy was the real deal. That happened. And Jessica, with my background, I really wanted to know what happened. So I did a FOIA request. I wanted to know. We had all the information there. Well, let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
Um, that same day that information was leaked to the public, the BFRO has an encounter that happened that same day. So it's like, holy crap! Did the feds put this out after hearing about that sighting on the BFRO? And it was like it's a really long, detailed sighting encounter, and it took me 2 years to find the person who made that encounter, but I found him, and he was a very professional person that lived in the area, and he told me, he's like, yeah, I did see something. I have no idea what it was. And shortly after that, we get the feds showing up offering essentially a bounty, $400,000. This is all factual. I'm sorry, but it's real. It happened. You can't dispute
Okay.
it. The stuff's out there. But yeah, and so that happened the same day that happened. And you want to know
Okay.
the next sighting that occurred? Do you want to know when that was in relation
I
to?
I do, but can I? Okay, so
Go ahead. Go
I,
ahead.
I just want to say, okay, now this is documented on by other people. This is not. I'm not the one that's like breaking this news. I've been told, and I've seen it. I've
Sure.
heard. Um, Sometimes that things have been reported to BFRO or maybe even some higher ups in BFRO. And I do work with BFRO sometimes. Like
Sure.
I go out in the field with some members. Okay, I'm personally not a member, but I go out with people in the field who are. A lot of them actually, or used to be. And
Sure.
I've been told there could be, okay, so shout out to all my BFRO friends, okay, but some people have complained that they have actually given reports to the BFRO, and like I said, please don't be mad at me, y'all. Whoever's
Yeah.
gonna get mad, please don't, because I'm just repeating what I've been told. But they give reports to them, and I'd mentioned like you give a report, somebody in the black helicopter show up over your house and you hear gunshots
Yeah.
stuff. Well,
Yeah.
that's who they were giving their reports to, and they felt like they had been gypped, or like they had been put on some kind of list or reported. They gave
Yeah.
these reports in all confidence, like it's just
Right. Hey,
BFR was
yeah.
doing with them. But then they got the government surveillance their houses now. Okay,
No, I mean
I'm not accusing the BFRO of
oh
that,
no,
but I'm just saying,
we're talking here,
yeah,
and it's like that's a fact. I mean, you can't dispute it. The same day that report came out, the the bounty was placed. That's a fact. You
right.
cannot that happened the
I'm
same
just
day.
I'm just connecting dots, y'all. That's all. I'm just connecting
Right.
dots. That's all I'm doing.
Well, the crazy thing was, okay,
Yeah.
we had that sighting, the email came out, and then there was all that's crazy stuff happened, and then the next the next sighting that occurred was the very next day. The next day, there was another sighting about 8 miles away in a different part of town. So that's to me, that's just like insane. You have three crazy incidents happening within 2 days of each other like that. It's really
Wow.
just wild and stuff. So, knowing me, like I was gonna circle back around, knowing me, having all this stuff, I had a lot of information. So I was able to write a very detailed FOIA request because I had all the information that I needed. So I write it, I send it in, I wait, and I get it was exempted. They said they exempted it. They said they don't have to give me that information. Possibly, and they list a few of the exemptions that it could have been. It could have been it's a national security threat. Could have been it's still an open investigation, or it could have been that alphabet agencies are involved with it. So I got a denial essentially for that researching that incident. So it's like,
Denied.
yeah, but it's like I've rarely has that happened. And this thing, I had so much information. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great, and they just denied it. So it's like, what the heck is going on here?
Oh my
Um,
God. Well,
yeah,
that kind of makes it a little more suspicious there, of course. But if you had gotten the report, it would have been all redacted, I'm sure.
it probably would have been. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, would have been nice
Might have
though.
been. But you got denied.
Yeah, yeah, exempt, but yeah, pretty much same
Oh,
thing.
exempt.
It's just pretty much the
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah, just different
Yeah.
wording.
It was probably
But
HIPAA
I mean,
exemption.
I wouldn't put it past them, but I really thought I was going to get something because I had all the information. I had names, dates, everything that I needed, and it's like, nope, sorry, you're not
God,
getting
it was like
anything.
you had the smoking gun. Like you had everything you
Yeah,
needed, and this one, that's why you got the exemption. Probably that's probably why
it
that
could have been.
happened.
Yeah, it could have
Yeah.
been. Or it's an open investigation. Who knows?
Oh yeah, it could be an open investigation too, but
Right. I mean,
nonetheless,
yeah, yeah.
you're
That
on
was in
their you're on their trail.
2017. Yeah, that was in 2017. I did the FOIA in like 2020. That's 3 years. You'd think that investigation's still open after 3 years. Really weird. Yeah.
Well, they're gonna if they don't want you to know, they're not going to give you that information. They're not. They'll come up with something. I think that the not FOIA, the HIPAA is the most interesting
It's
exemption
really
I've
interesting.
heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't
Mhm.
explain that. That's just crazy. Yeah.
Oh
Can't
my
explain that.
gosh. Oh my gosh, y'all. This has been a fantastic show tonight, Eric. I am so excited that you came on and talked about all this. I mean, there's so much out there that we question, and we're like, well, does the government? A big topic is always, well, what does the government know? What
They
do the
don't.
national parks know? They
They
know.
know. They know. No, it's a fact. It's a fact. They know. And they've known since 1969. So
You got a date. You got the receipts, man. You
the
got the
receipts,
receipts.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
fact. Yeah.
Well, if everybody that's listening tonight, everybody that's watching, everybody listening, please go become a member of Eric's Patreon. Support Eric, everybody. Okay. And you get access to his films, his documentaries, and to these FOIA requests, the 911 calls, and everything are all on his Patreon. And it will assist you in getting more documents with the more Patreon members that you have as well. So,
Definitely. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Please support,
wow.
and that way we can get more documentation, more phone calls, photos. Yeah, I would really appreciate anyone willing to support by joining the Patreon. And I'm going to be documenting the knowing of the government stuff in my next book and documentary project, where I'm gonna show all the documents from the government funded expedition that happened in the 70s. I'm gonna show that it happened. There's no arguing. People were paid to go look for Bigfoot by the government. That happened.
Man,
Yeah, no excuses. Yeah,
this is fat. I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard. This is like breaking news for me.
it
I've
is.
never
Yeah,
heard this.
and please spread this, share this. Like, more people need to know that we I we've got documents from national parks, from the Bureau of Indian Affairs from the 78. I have the documents from the expeditions that happened in the 70s. It's a factual thing. As crazy as it sounds, there's documentation showing this happening. Government was involved with that. You can't deny it or dispute it. It happened. Yeah.
I've got something else that you could look into. The alleged cryptid breeding programs that our
I
government
haven't heard about
allegedly
that one.
has.
Yeah.
You have or haven't? You've
No,
heard of
I
that?
haven't heard about that. No, I don't
Okay.
think I've heard about that. Yeah.
I've heard about it. I don't know. We've done a couple of shows on them,
Yeah.
and I've been told it's a thing. Okay, so
I might have to look into that. Yeah.
might have to look into it. I got some people in the know. Maybe we can get some dates and
Cool.
locations and
That always helps. Yeah. The more
yeah,
information, better at narrowing it down you can get. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm thinking about all the FOIA requests we get for giants and all that stuff, all these sightings.
Yeah.
Man, my brain is racing tonight. I mean, my thing is being a boots on the ground field researcher.
Right.
Okay, and I don't do so much of the paper trails and stuff.
Right.
But man, I got some ideas I can send to you. I can
Yeah,
send them to you
absolutely. And
for
one of the
sure.
reasons why I started doing, the documentation is because I'm not really a boots on the ground person. I fish and hunt. I mean, I'm from Central Texas. I grew up along the
Okay.
Brushy Creek my entire life, but I'm not an expert tracker or anything like that. And I have a background in journalism, so I use my background, and I'm just trying to, to the best of my ability, help out the community and document what I find. And yeah, that's really what I'm trying to do here.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I hope you'll come back. I mean, you've got so much information. I'm sure we just barely like got the surface of like
Uh,
what the stuff that you've got, right?
yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I've got stuff from the Beast of Bray Road werewolf that I've got documentation on that. I'm not sure how I feel about like the LBL stuff, but I do have a really creepy document from the LBL, which is like, holy crap, that's pretty freaking creepy.
Oh.
Yeah, I've
Oh,
got, yeah.
you're coming back on, dude. You're coming back on, Eric, soon. Okay, we're gonna get.
Well, it's,
I'm
yeah,
just. I'm
speculation,
just
but
gonna
yeah.
schedule you once a month or something. Seriously, I bet
How
we
about,
could.
yeah,
We could dig in.
they might get
Okay.
tired of hearing from me after a while.
No, we need. You know what? You got the receipts. Not a lot of people have the receipts for real.
Yeah,
And
yeah, for sure.
we've got our experiences though, and those are just as important. It's all important.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're mentioning here, like there would be no reports if people weren't out there experiencing stuff. So please continue to go out there and do your camping or researching or whatever you're doing, because those are the people that I'm getting the reports on. I'll just say that.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I want to thank Bigfoot Dwarf for connecting us, Eric. Thank
Absolutely,
you so
yes,
much,
yeah.
Bigfoot
Thank you,
Dwarf,
Bigfoot
aka
Dwarf. Yeah,
Brown Dwarf.
yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about your you got other documentaries too. We talked about your documentaries. Let's talk about. I actually have some pictures and stuff,
Sure,
and
yeah,
tell the audience about your website and your Patreon. Anything you got. Let's talk about it.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm working on. I just got back the rights from my. It's like a follow up to Beast of Brushy Creek, Legend of Harry Man Road. It's called Expedition Brushy Creek, and I've had that complete for about a year. There was some weird stuff going on with the licensing. Yeah, that's it right there. Weird stuff going on with the licensing, but I got everything back now, so that will be on streaming platforms very soon. And that's we were able to go on the Harryman Road when it was closed down. I had just received some reports of people being hit by pebbles that were riding on their bikes. And so I go out there and we have on film pebbles being thrown just out of complete darkness. It's crazy. It's creepy. I interviewed some people that had really one of the best encounters I've ever heard along the Brushy Creek. I spoke to that witness, and she gives a really incredible, detailed description of what she saw and what she encountered. Really awesome stuff. That's going to be in Expedition Brushy Creek that I'll be dropping very soon. And then I have my book that I'm working on. I haven't got a title for that, but that's going to contain the book and the documentary are going to be the same thing. They're going to encompass and focus on the hidden information of Bigfoot. That it's really going to it's going to the title I'm working for is going to be called like they know about Bigfoot or something to that effect. It's a working title.
They know.
Yeah,
They
but it's
know.
going to be about all
Right.
the everything I have showing that they know about what's going on, because I have all of that stuff. And again, if you want to check out the documentation, I have the largest collection of Bigfoot cryptid reports, law enforcement reports that's ever been amassed. That is on my Patreon. Um, so I really, implore people to check that out and support, because with your support, I can continue to get more documents, phone calls, photos, everything of that nature. So I really, really hope you guys consider supporting my Patreon. Take a look at it, and yeah, my website, Media Palace. It has links to my documentaries. You could shoot me an email on there. I'm gonna be uploading some new stuff on there here probably this week. But yeah, no, it's if you guys have anything you'd like me to look into, please shoot me an email, and I'll try my best to take a look into that. And if anybody knows anyone that was out in that national park, one of the that experienced their sighting and reported it, that the ranger never went out to, if anybody was involved with that, please contact me, because I'd like to get to the bottom of that.
Oh,
But yeah, feel free to reach out and contact me for whatever information you might have, or if you'd like me to look into something. Yeah,
yeah. Show me the receipts. I think Whitney Houston
got
said
the
that. Show
receipts.
me the
Yeah,
receipts. You got the receipts, man.
we
You
got them.
got
Yeah,
them.
we got
And
them. Take a look.
I love it. Oh my gosh. What a freaking great show tonight. This is I'm always learning something new, but I learned a lot of new stuff tonight. I learned a lot from you. So thank you, Eric.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah.
super freaking awesome, man. And mediapalace.net, you guys can find his documentaries there, and social media and all that kind of stuff. Y'all go find
Yeah.
Media Palace.
Yeah, check out
And
my YouTube channel. It's here. Has a lot of my stuff on there. It's got a lot of the 911 phone calls. And I don't know if I should say, I'm going to say it because we need to
just say
say it.
it.
Yeah, I'm going to say it anyways. Jessica, it's important for people like you to keep your shows going, and
Mhm.
for independent media to stay strong and connected. Yeah, I'm going to break some hearts when I say this, but I've had History Channel reach out to me Discovery Channel reach out to me. I had a Zoom meeting with one of the producers from Expedition Bigfoot. It did not go good. I'll just say that. Uh,
Really?
they wanted to do a show with me, but they wanted to hire an actor to play me,
Oh,
which
wait. That happened to people on my team too. I know all about. That's what they do. That's what
and
they did.
so after
Yeah.
talking for a while, I got emails from another producer, and unfortunately, they were gonna they're gonna steal some of my content to produce a show for the History Channel.
That's what they
Uh,
do. They want to come in and talk to
yeah,
you and get to know you so they can build a character off of you. That's
that's
I learned that this past year too, and it is
yeah,
heartbreaking. But that's why
it
we're
is.
doing this channel. That's why I'm
Yeah,
here, and that's why I've even pushed harder to put the information out and to bring people like yourself
yeah,
on my show, because there's a lot of, I'm just going to call them imposters, Hollywood imposter
absolutely.
stuff,
No,
and
100%.
it's
When I was
yeah.
speaking with the guy, he was trying to, like you said, he was trying to act all friendly, kind of like a hippie or
They did
whatever.
that to me too. I've had
Yeah,
that too.
but then he
Yeah.
was like, he's like, okay, I'm gonna send you an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Send me all your stuff, is what he
Because
said.
they want to silence you is what they do. They want to take it and then they own it. Okay.
Yeah,
And
and then he
so
was like,
you're
he
doing
kept
the right
asking me.
thing, man.
Yeah, he kept asking me, how did you find this, or where did you get that? And then another producer was also doing the same thing, and I wrote
Yep.
them a really nasty email, pretty much saying, hey, what's the deal? Or like you pretty much doing what the other guy did, and I had a. But you know what, Jessica? The TV networks are dying. They're losing money left and right. Discovery lost like over like $1 billion, so they're not going to be around much longer. So shows like yours are very important to get the word out there. You're the
Thank you.
future. A lot of you independent content creators are the future. A couple more
It's-
years, TV is not going to be around anymore. So we need people like yourself to for people to relay, stuff like this out to the general public. So it's really important you keep this going, and everyone else, yeah, for sure, keep it going. Independent media.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I love that. And I've been through the same thing. I got
Yeah.
contacted, I think it was last year. I was getting eaten up with calls from producers and people that
Mhm.
wanted, so they wanted me to do TV shows and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And really what they were doing, I'm also very psychic, and I know, and I've got some insider friends, who have been kind of screwed over by Hollywood and stuff. And they warned me about it. And I found out what they were doing was they were trying to get to know me and figure out what I do and get my information so they could build a
Right.
character off of me.
It's terrible.
And it's still my information and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I just went a little bit harder on my shows here at the Cryptid Huntress channel. I really stepped it up at that point because I knew that
Yeah.
what I was doing was important. If
Yeah.
that many
No,
people were coming at me and
absolutely.
trying to steal it.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
think you're doing the right thing, Jessica. And if you guys want to
Thank
hear the
you.
voicemail, you want to hear the voicemail the producer left me, it's not on my Patreon now, but it will be very soon. So I'm putting them on blast. I don't care. Like, you trying to steal they are stealing my stuff. They told me that the History Channel within a couple of months is going to be releasing. I don't know. Well, I'm going to say this. I don't care. It's
Yeah.
my opinion, but I'm saying it. They're going to be releasing a show that has 911 phone calls about Bigfoot and UFOs. That's the focus of this
Mhm.
next show. And they were asking me
Yeah.
for my 911 phone calls. This is a fact. I have all the emails and
Yeah.
everything. So if you see that, hey, just think about me, please. If you see that on History Channel.
Man, I can feel you on all of that because I've experienced it too. And I dipped out real quick, but when I figured out
Yeah.
what was going on. And so yeah, so you guys will not be seeing me on any TV shows anytime
I said
soon.
this. I
Okay.
said the same thing. I'm never going to be on any type of network ever. Yeah, that's never going
Yeah.
to happen to me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not my you I saw that they were trying to go for like the rights to my story and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't take that from me and then change
No,
it up
no.
and then have an actor portray me in something. You know what I
Absolutely. No,
mean? And
like
like
I
steal
said,
my information.
they
Yeah.
are they are they're dinosaurs. They're
Yeah.
not going to be around much longer. So just
Yeah.
keep doing what
Well,
you're doing.
thank you. I don't want the information suppressed. And so that's
Sure.
also why we
It's
need
another good
to,
reason. Yeah.
that's why I really enjoy bringing people on to tell their story. Tell their story
Right.
before a book deal happens and all that kind of stuff,
There
because
you go. Yeah.
things get a little bit gray, if you know what I mean, a little
That's a good way to
blurry.
put it. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good way to put
But
it.
man, well, I love this. Well, listen, I'm sorry that happened to you, and
I'm
I'm
sorry it
glad you're
happened to
here
you.
tonight.
Yeah.
That's okay. Hey, I already saw it coming. I'm a little, I was a step ahead. I was like 10 steps
Good.
ahead on
Good.
it. So yeah. So we're all good, and we're here tonight, and we have a wonderful audience. You guys have been freaking fantastic tonight, everybody. And I want to thank Firewater by Design, who gifted one lucky member, somebody who was watching the show tonight. You got gifted a Cryptid Huntress membership to the Hunt Club tonight.
Nice.
So thank you, Firewater by Design. That was so sweet of you, and much appreciated. I know whoever got that is very happy. So,
Cool.
all right. Well, please go to Media Palace on YouTube and Patreon, y'all. Become a member, support Eric. This is so important what you're doing. And come back, please.
Yeah.
Back and hang out.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, this has been great. I hope everybody learned something tonight. Y'all, I learned so much myself. And you guys, please come back and see me. What is tonight? Saturday. I'll be back on Monday live at 1 p.m. Eastern. With another fantastic live show for you guys. So, yeah, let's all support each other in this field. Like I said, we got a lot of Bigfooters and cryptid researchers in the chat tonight, and people who are just genuinely curious about Bigfoot. And if you want their receipts, Eric's got them. Go to his Patreon, you guys. And thank you for all the support, you guys, and all the love. We're sending our love and our prayers out to everybody out in California who's being affected by the fires. And yeah, and everybody who's snowed in over here on the East Coast to fire and ice, man.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. It's crazy. We're living in crazy times. But Eric, I end every show. I tell everybody to stay safe out there and keep your head on a swivel, y'all. Please.
Definitely.
Oh, and thank you. Wait, hold on. Before we go, Mystical Wonderland. Thank you so much for that super sticker too. I appreciate that very much. Y'all support is just fantastic for the channel, and I appreciate y'all. But like I said, y'all please go support Eric's work and go to mediapalace.net. Okay, and watch the documentaries. And so, Eric, thank you so much again for being here. You guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys on Monday. All right, we'll see you later. If I can find my button. All right, see y'all.